before we get to OEF, your tour in Afghanistan, where that we call OEF 8. I kind of want to give you some space, not to talk through every tour, but just to talk about kind of like what actually stayed with you from the many tours in between. Because I want people at home to know, like Chris did about 8 to 9 years of combat in his career, right? And you had
podcast
multiple tours, right? And so I kind of wanted to give you kind of some space to kind of talk about like some of the highlights or something that you want to talk about from your multiple tours outside of kind of OEF 8 in Afghanistan. What sticks out to you?
It's kind of been weird how I explained Department of Veteran Affairs. I don't need to talk to them.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Again, as you know, I always hate talking about myself because I just get so much freaking guilt about it. Makes no sense. But how I explain people my career path or how my Army career went more specifically when it came to the deployments is I tell them I didn't have a normal career. First I start, of my deployments, OEF 1, I was a mortarman, but I gone in and did other things specifically in combat. I didn't shoot a mortar at all in OEF 1 towards the enemy that I remember. I mean, maybe someone could correct me on that. OIF 1, there was times we set mortar pits. They would say, bring the mortars together, set up a pit, but now go back to your platoon and do what they need you to do. It was just like, so I think it was left to my platoon sergeant and a couple of the guys that weren't in the platoons kicking down doors or clearing rooms or whatever for them. Then you move into, while I was in Iraq, I re-enlisted for Italy. I went to the board in Iraq at the end of Iraq. I became a corporal. For something happened, my squad leader was not able to come back to Iraq. So I actually became the squad leader. That's the reason they sent me to the board. I left corporal promotable, but as I re-enlisted for Italy. So we redeployed home from OIF 1. I ended up going to OEF 6 as a scout for the first 9 of the 12 months. I was in the scout platoon because when I got there, they didn't need a mortarman. They're like, we're filled up on mortarmen. I got lucky by re-enlisting to get there, so they sent me to the scouts. Mm-hmm. So I was an E5 sergeant in the scout platoon there with 2nd, the 503rd, and then got pulled back to the mortars right towards the end of the deployment of OEF 6. OEF 6 was different than the rest. I wasn't in a lot of ticks. They were big ticks, though. So they were like 20, maybe 30, but they were large engagements. So we were going into valleys and getting people out of the valleys. We were going in looking for trouble where we knew there was nests of Taliban or Al Qaeda or whoever was out there doing whatever they were doing.
I'm sorry, so Chris, where was this? Where
So OEF 6, we were in the Kandahar, Lagman, Fob Lagman, that area. Mm-hmm. So we did a lot of missions. Again, this is E5 up now. I wish I knew more, but we were at Fob Lagman, north of Kandahar. We did a lot of missions up into the valleys, and I wish I can remember the names of the valleys. So we would go in and we'd be there for, anywhere from a couple of days to a couple of weeks rooting out these. So there were large engagements. Some of the ones I'll never forget. I was coming up over a mountain with my guys, and we started getting shot as soon as we hit, and I was literally on my back for the entire firefight, just trying to get up and over. But OEF 6 is where I also met my wife now of 20 years.
Ah, okay.
So she was an MP. I was an infantry cat with the 173rd at the time. We both disagree on how we met, but we met. So,
that's freaking cool, man. I'd love to hear more about that. What's your version of the story?
There's this place called Saigez. Mm-hmm. What happened was the platoon out there, they had lost their PL. A truck got hit by an ID, killed everybody in the truck. Mm-hmm. So they wanted them to be able to go to the services. So they inserted our scout squad in and extracted them so they can go to the services for their down comrade soldiers. And so we were out there, and there's an MP unit out there, completely separate mission. We were out there to do what we had to do. They were there, but we just happened to be coinciding in the same spot. And I think they had like 3 or 4 females, and obviously they were very protective of no. You know how it is. If you're back in those days, like you see a female, you're like, what? But but I saw her. I was like, wow, she is beautiful. Like, she's in the Army. Like, what? And I saw her, but I was like, I'm not here to make a girlfriend or whatever. So I left. We did our mission. We left. They stayed there. And then we saw each other again later in Kandahar. This is what she disagrees with. Anyway, to make a long story, we talked, and we coincided our post-deployment leave together to meet our parents. We were hitting it off. I mean, then now we still had email. Like, we'd email each other where we're at. Every once in a while, if we were close by the fob, we'd stop in, and I had a great platoon sergeant who was he's like, yes, we'll stop off. It's no big deal. I mean, thank God we just never got anybody killed. But, anytime outside the wire is fun. So, we were very fortunate. We both had chain of commands. They're like, stay away from each other. If you like each other, then we'll see if it's after the deployment. And We did. We hit it off after deployment. She was stationed out of Germany, Hanau, and we got married. And took me about 9 months to get her from Germany down to Italy, and then I left for my 15-month deployment to OEF8. And
Amazing.
we
You're
survived.
you're the first one to. You're the first guest to report a marriage that came out from a combat zone. That's got to be worth a beer, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great story. I mean, to tell with all the details and the way I looked at it, the way it happened is it had to be meant to be because there was no other way. And the story, it goes a little bit deeper than that. But yeah, it's I finally got her down there, and then she's been with me ever since. She's been my rock, obviously. She has just as many deployments as I do at this point.
Amazing.
That was the big OEF6. So it was just a bunch of large engagements over time.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of good friends of mine got silver stars. You know, Christopher Choi, good friend of mine who I was in Operation Anaconda with. He was in 10th Mountain. I was in the 101st. He got a silver star during OEF6, and a few others did too. Great. I mean, it was what you would think going to war was like. It was you get inserted in, the enemy's there, they shoot at you, you shoot at them. You know, it's a battle. You're not getting shot from the rooftops of here. You're not getting shot from the mountains. You know, we were, but most of our stuff during OEF6 was after, bunker systems and whatnot.
Interesting. How were they employing the scouts during that time? If you were in the scout platoon, I mean, was it different than what you were?
Great stuff. I loved it.
Yeah.
So we had for OEF6, we had Colonel Stammer the Hammer. I love that guy. I know some people maybe wasn't the cup of tea, but he was the barrel-chested freedom fighter I had, and he used us. We had ARF missions, so it was actually kind of great. So we would have our snipers up in the bird. He would have us as his PSD, and anytime there's a big mission going on from like the companies, we would circle, and if we had squirters, we would go right down on them, jump out, chase them down, do whatever we had to do, and hop back on, go back up again. Greatest mission ever, except for that one where they put me on top of the mountain and we start getting shot at, and I'm spending the rest of my time on my back. But that was exciting because I had never done that. Now I'm getting in a helicopter, and the only way I'm getting out of this helicopter is to go after bad guys. It's like, how lucky can I be? And we're chasing guys down wadis. I mean, that was a great 9-month experience as a mortarman. Just being lucky enough to go serve as a team leader in the scouts, under Jeremy Beeson, great man. He was funny story. Jeremy Beeson, who Sergeant Major retired Beeson, Command Sergeant Major retired Beeson, was my drill sergeant.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't my platoon. He was in our company. He was Alpha 254. I was a different platoon. And I remember him there. He's a tall, skinny white guy, Ranger. I was like, dude, that dude is awesome. And then I find out I was in his damn scout platoon. And he helped mold me as not just a soldier, but as an 11 Bravo, cross-trained as an 11 Bravo from being 11 Charlie. Then they pulled me back in the mortar platoon the last few months because they were building some mortars, and I guess the mortar fight was coming. But ask me again, did I fire a mortar at a combat? No, I fired more small arms at this point in my career than a mortar at any enemy up to OEF 6.
Amazing.
We'll save OEF 8. After OEF 8, I worked for Sergeant Major Earl Rice. He was the Command Sergeant Major for CTAF at the time. He had been the brigade CSM. The day of my Silver Star ceremony, he shook my hand, pulled me in, and said, "I want you to come talk to me." I was like, okay. I went back and I talked to my other mentor, Jay Levy. Oh, man. Sergeant Major retired, Command Sergeant Major retired, Jay Levy. He was my platoon sergeant during OEFA. I was like, what's about to happen? He's like, you're going to go up and work for him. I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, you're going to drive him. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, what? What? I have 4 deployments. I'm like, why am I going to go drive a Command Sergeant Major around? Like, what? I'm already deployed. OEF 10, let's go,
Mm-hmm.
And he laughed it off. He's like, it's going to be good for your career. And he was absolutely correct. Earl Rice, if I was going to serve under anybody, Earl Rice by far would be that guy. Him and Command Sergeant Major Eric Crabtree retired. Yep. And Jay Levy. Those 3 right there molded me from a young age, from a young NCO through my career. They're the ones that taught me what a leader is, not what a warfighter is, not what a leader is.
Mm-hmm.
A good story about that is when I started working for Sergeant Major Earl Rice, we're in the car, we were driving somewhere up in Germany. We just switched over to USARAF, United States Army Africa.
Yep.
We started talking. He's like, what kind of leader you think you are? He has this great accent. And I'm like, I'm a combat leader, Sergeant Major. And I should have never said that. There's no such thing as a combat leader. You're a leader. And then and he mentored me. He was absolutely correct. Like, he got me out of this mindset where back to back deployments, who am I? There's no such thing as a combat leader. You're a leader. You either suck at it or you're good at it. And part of being a leader isn't just combat. It's taking care of your damn soldiers as well,
Yeah.
And he was absolutely correct. That got me out of this stupid mindset where, everything was about combat, or if I'm not in combat, I'm not doing the right thing, or if I'm not in combat, I'm not doing shit, or if I'm not in combat, I don't have a purpose. No, I do have a purpose. My purpose is teaching, training, and mentoring my soldiers in order to go to the next combat tour. And he made me realize that. I don't think I would have done that on my own. Him and Jason Levy, by far, I would not be in this seat talking to you for anything whatsoever if it wasn't for those two and Command Sergeant Major retired Crabtree. Those three gentlemen were my tripod that somehow kept me up and facing the right way when maybe I shouldn't be for my own stupid decisions I made when I was younger. Get out there. I was arrested for a fight in Nashville in 2002. I thought my career was over. I thought everything was over.
Mm-hmm.
And Crabtree came through for me. He saw the good in me, and I got a fresh start in Italy. I literally got to Italy with $20 in my pocket, nothing else. I started a new life, in Italy, and it was at the right time under Jay Levy, and then with Eric Crabtree. That when he took over Fort Benning, Georgia, as the CSM, he pulled me with him, and I became a drill sergeant. Where I learned, and I was 11 Bravo Iftrios. I didn't even go to the border square. I got to kind of renew all that.
And all those guys you mentioned, your tripod, those guys are legends. Mm-hmm. I remember Sergeant Major Rice. He was my Sergeant Major when I was 18th Airborne Corps. I mean, it goes beyond, as you said, it's not just the titles and the positions they assumed. It was the types of leaders they were. And you were very fortunate to have that exposure to those sorts of NCOs, as you were coming up to help you stay on track, man.
I promise you, I have guardian angels. I should be dead. I should be in jail. I should not be married with a beautiful wife and child. If it wasn't for those three and many more, I mean, I could throw out 1,000 names of guys who had a positive. I'm telling you, there's really nobody in my career that had a negative impact on my career that I was like, I wish, now I could see him again and give it to him. There really wasn't one, because those guys molded me just as well as everybody else did, right?
Yep.
So they deserve just as much credit as anybody else does, in my eyes, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So we moved past OEF, or I get back off the trail. Eric Crabtree calls me. Now he's Rakkasan 7. He's in charge of the Rakkasans. He asked me when I was coming off the trail, and I told him May. I'll come off trail in May. He's like, good. We're deploying 1 September. I'm like, I'm in. And without telling my wife this, by the way, sis, this will probably be the first time she sees this.
We've all done that. We've all paid for it.
So I get down there. Good buddy of mine, Chad Atkin, who ironically enough is now Rakkasan 7.
Mm-hmm.
And my other buddy, Ryan Jeffers, we were all platoon sergeants together during this next deployment, is now the garrison CSM for Fort Campbell. So it's crazy how life works. And my last job in the Army was the 101st Division Ops Sergeant Major, because I turned down CSL. And so it's just kind of weird how it came. So we got there, me and Acton going to Crabtree's office, and we're like talking to him, shooting the shit. Colonel Lillibridge comes in. He's the brigade commander at the time, shook his hand, kind of remembered us, kind of didn't. He's another legend. He asked Eric, he's like, where you got him going? And this is another true story. He's like, 133. And I'm like, what the fuck is 133? Like, I thought I was going to Iron or Leader, bring back Raider Roxons. Like, I didn't know. I didn't want to go a Cav unit, I didn't know the C troop within the Cav unit was scouts, infantry guys. And so he left, and I shook his hand. He left. I was like, why am I going to Cav? I was like, I'm supposed to go back to MLOC, get re-glued on MLOC stuff, and go take a mortar platoon. And no. I went to C troop. So let's just say I went home, and I'm like reading up on reconnaissance. Like, my wife will tell you, I locked myself in a room, and I'm like, I know shit about real reconnaissance. So I'm studying like everything I could about reconnaissance, so I didn't look like a jackass going in here. These guys were post JRTC. They were ready to get on planes and go. Like, here I am coming off the trail. The only thing I have going for me is, I'm familiar with combat, but I haven't been in Afghanistan in 2 years. I got very fortunate. We went to Camp Clark. We were in Kaus province. I got to run my own platoon. We were used as an infantry platoon, just clearing up valleys. We got some really good ticks up there. We got some HVTs. And then halfway through that deployment, my platoon got sent to Salerno, where we started doing patrols up and around Salerno to keep it, since they were starting to, not the year before, the year we got there, prior to us getting there, is when they breached the walls of Salerno with that bomb, and actually got into the compound through where they parked their trucks, and they shut up the chow hall and made a fucking mess. They looked like juggernauts. It looked ridiculous. I don't know if you've ever actually seen that footage, but we saw that footage when we got there. Like, hey, this is a real threat. We need you guys to back them off. So they brought my whole infantry platoon, my scout platoon, up, and our only job was to protect Salerno and keep the enemy pushed back. So the big thing about that deployment was that's where a new piece of my PTSD kicked in. We went up after an HVT north of Salerno. It was probably about a 2-hour drive. We went up in dark. We went in blackout. Up through the mountains, no big deal. We got up there. We got our guy. No harm, no foul. I don't even think we shot a bullet, to be honest with you. So we got the guy. I'm in the back of the convoy, and I have my seatbelt behind me because I'm trying to get on the Blue Force tracker to send up the salt report because my PL's truck wasn't working. And as I'm like trying to look through the light and do it, I'm looking over and my driver, and I won't tell you his name. And I'm like, dude, you're getting too close to the edge. And I'm looking over and I'm like looking straight down. I'm like, dude, stop. And he went to stop, and the truck dug in and the road let off. And we rolled over the cliff. I want to say about 15, 20, 25 feet. I because I was dumb and undid my thing, I was hit around I don't remember the actual thing. I don't remember rolling over. I just remember getting pulled out of the hatch by one of my snipers, Zach Hendricks, good guy too. And then getting put on the Blackhawk to get pushed into Salerno. But the crazy part about that, after that, I had to get a new driver. I was so scared to get in a vehicle especially go up in mountains. And that's where I've always denied having PTSD, whatever shocks, whatever it is, right? I just never wanted, especially that time in my life. I was like, I'm too strong for that shit. But I'll tell you what, I caught real PTSD after that rollover because every time I got in a vehicle after that, I felt anxiety I never felt before. I felt like I was like, I never did this before. I was free, doing my thing. But what got me even worse was why I believe I have guardian angels is they took me back to the site where we rolled over. Right where we rolled was only an outcropping of the cliff. So you dropped onto one. If it would have rolled again, it would have fell 200 feet to the bottom of the ravine. But when it went down, it dug straight down in and it didn't roll again.
Yeah.
Luckily, I had a crow system, so I didn't have a gunner in the hatch. It tore the 50 cal off, obviously, and messed the whole truck up. The joke of that is not only to add to my PTSD, I was like, how do we go up in blackout but come back white light and I still get rolled over a damn mountain? I'll never understand it.
Thanks for sharing that because that is trauma, plain and simple. Okay. A lot of people, they think that that kind of trauma only comes, when bullets are flying, when you see all these horrible things during combat, but taking a vehicle, a heavy tactical, top heavy armored vehicle through those mountain passes. And many times, we're talking sheer cliffs on the way down. That is terrifying, man.
It was but the thing is OEF 8, OEF 6, we didn't have any vehicles in OEF 1. OEF 6 and 8, we were driving those mountains. Man, you know how it was. When you're driving through there, until something happens, you're just like, oh, yeah, you're not holding on for dear life. You're thinking you trust your driver. You trust you're not going to hit an IED that's going to blow you off the side of the son of a bitch, because that's happened where people haven't died of IEDs, but they died of the fall after. And that's so sad.
Yeah.
That happened in OEF 8 to a couple of people. The PTSD from the rollover haunted me more than anything else that I had at that point in my life.
Don't doubt it, man. I don't doubt it.
Of deployments. So we rounded out OEF that deployment, redeployed home. I was still 2 sergeant when I left. The company dissipated. We had a first sergeant come in and he had to leave. And I was an E7 non-promotable, but I was a senior E7 in the company. Acton went on to be the scout platoons over at Leader, and Jeffers went on to do bigger and better things. So I stayed in the company, stayed in the troop. And first sergeant came in, got about halfway through the train up. Something came up in his life, and now we're down a first sergeant. Walter Tagliacude was our brigade CSN now. And I remember the first sergeant who was leaving asked that I be the first sergeant for the train up going into deployment. Now you got 11 Charlie, no tab, plenty of combat time, but as a brigade CSM for your C Troop 133, you want a stud, right? And I knew that in the back of my mind. So I interviewed for the job. He gave it to me reluctantly, I think. I mean, as he should have. And I did good things. So we trained up on that deployment. In the back of my mind, someone's going to come replace me. Someone's going to come replace me. I'm E7 non-promotable. There's no way I'm going to be able to keep this troop through the whole deployment. So now we go into the next one, OEF 1213, I believe, or ORS1 or whatever it was. But we're out of Jalalabad, Afghanistan. Last time I was in Jalalabad, Afghanistan is when I got medevac there from OEF 8, right?
Yep.
Now we're there. We're throwing Tories up everywhere. On the first sergeant for C Troop, and we have a 3-mission rotation. PSD for the people going out to do their thing, guard the base, and then actual operations. So it's a 3-month rotation. So my first 3 months, I was just guarding Salerno, trying to up the force protection because it was shoddy when I got there, just old. I wouldn't say anybody. When I got to Salerno, that was another one that had been breached, or not Salerno. Now I'm getting them all mixed up. Jalalabad. Mm-hmm. Jalalabad was another one had gotten breached from the backside, and I'd read the story. I did my homework on it. So when I was the first one in the seat, when we got there, my company, my troop, I started looking at Force Pro stuff. Claymores have been out there probably 20 years, 10 years at this point, that were just needed to be brought in. So I actually took my experience from living on the FOB and OEF8 and all these other things, and I just did it to Jalalabad. I had to get that Force Pro back up. So it was a great 3 months to actually kind of put my skills to the test as far as being being in charge of a FOB, security, force protection, the everyday running in and out of what's going on at a place like that, to then going out and guarding, PSD for those that were out there doing talking things, and then actually going out and doing missions up in an attacker guard up there in the pass and all that good stuff. So it wasn't a complete loss when it came to firefights. Our guys got their CIBs at the end of the day. We had a few good ticks during that one, but the time frame, it was kind of like, just hit and runs. It was nothing real big. That was also kind of the mission. We weren't meant to go out at that time. I think it was under Obama. We weren't out doing combat operations anymore, right?
Yeah.
So we got back off that one. During that deployment, I made the list. They frocked me on the deployment. I kept the troop. And I promised Sergeant Major Tagley, could I go to Ranger School? Sorry, Major. I kept deploying. I came off that. They gave me leader. They gave me my favorite job in the Army. Man, that was my favorite job in the Army. Charlie Company 1187.
The first
we went back to Afghanistan. What's that?
The first sergeant.
Yeah, the first sergeant for that guy. He is now Major Distal. He went to Ranger Regiment after company command, did great things in Ranger Regiment. And then my platoon sergeants are all one's a sergeant's major, one's about to be a sergeant major. He's a first sergeant over in Italy in the 173rd. All the PLs are studs. They're either in CAG or SF or, doing good. It was the perfect thing. All 3 of our PLs were D1 football players. How often does that happen?
Wow.
One played for Army, East Carolina, and Princeton. I didn't even know Princeton had a football team, to be honest. I'm just joking. But so they all played for football. My platoon sergeants were all studs. Multiple deployments, all hard strike T7s, and then me and my commander and IXO. And so this deployment, we were on TURF, Theater Response Force. Greatest mission you're going to be on Afghanistan at this time frame. A couple things to note from this deployment was we weren't even in country a month when that we were still in the barracks, getting our bearings together, getting ready to start pushing out and taking over the turf. When that 5K on Disney Avenue, that dude went in with a bomb and blew it up.
Yep, I remember that.
My first mission in Afghanistan for that one was my guys had to for one, we had to secure the site. They had to look for body pieces. This is a true story because I remember having to talk to my soldiers about this. Me and my commander were like, we got to pull these guys in and talk to them. They're picking up ears. They're picking up guts. I went on there and I saw it, and it didn't faze me, obviously, but I could see it phasing the soldiers. So after we saw that, we had to get a plan together because some of these guys are going to come back and think it's cool, but it's not cool, But our first month was clearing every building. I mean, we were going out near the prison, places that haven't been touched in years. And we did. We found all kinds of things to build V-Vest buried out there on Bagram in those fields. We found a lot of stuff.
Wow.
The other things to quote about that deployment was we were in Kunduz. We had to push some help some guys up there, keep some guys back from Kunduz because Kunduz had been overran. They pushed them out. We were up there to support from Kunduz. So I had my platoon in with some soft guys, just doing fighting the good fight out there to keep them out of Kunduz. I had a platoon who was out in the valley when they dropped that Moab. My second platoon was out there when that Moab went down. They got to see it firsthand. And then, so I had 2 platoons with me and I had a platoon down there. So me and my commander, we rotate. We, stay down there. Our XO was in Bagram. And so it was a great experience. Now I got to, I was in Kandahar for a month at one point doing a mission. I got to see all parts of Afghanistan I had seen 3-4 times prior to this and watched how they either evolved or devolved. I remember during this mission, we did a theater response out to this place across from where I was at in OEF8. Tell me how surreal that was, flying a helicopter, looking at the Chowkay Valley 10 years later as we're going to I'm sorry, I can't remember the place. It was right there, though, because we were in Fortress and we go into Chowkay when we get to OEF8. But it was so surreal seeing that. But I got to run my own FOB. When we went to Kunduz, we were some soldiers from Germany. I made a really good sergeant major from Germany that I still keep in touch with. And that was a whole other piece of the mission I'd never seen prior before. So it was different than any other mission I had. But I had all this experience to be able to run. I was getting my guys NWR stuff. We were running our own chow hall, it was great. It was like I had my own world up there, and I was able to move around and send guys out to, what's every guy want? They want to get their CIB. They want to get in a firefight, and I couldn't be a hypocrite. So anytime missions came up, I was kicking, we were kicking those guys out there to do what we could. Obviously, we were told what to do, but, I didn't need my whole company with me all the time to have control of them and sit here and be bored. No, let them go on and do what they need to do, and they got to see the Moab drop. And so that was that deployment. I don't even know which one I'm on anymore.
I mean, it's interesting though, like this outstanding conversation we're having, starting with PFC up, and like you're coming out the back of a Chinook and you got RPG rounds and rounds flying past you and you're doing what you're told to do. And now, you're a senior non-commissioned officer, you're delegating, you're pushing down. I mean, not everyone can make that jump where you're able to power down, where you're able to put trust in guys to go out and do what you have to do. Some guys just like, I've seen it both in the NCOs, I've seen it in officers too. Like it's once you get to a certain level, they just don't have it in them to do that. Was it a natural thing for you, or did you have to learn as you went along? It's like, man, I can't do all this stuff myself. I'm going to have to power down, I'm going to put trust in guys, give orders in a way that, allows them maximum flexibility to carry them out. What kind of a learning curve was that for you?
That was the first job I actually did that right there. My shotgun blast into non-commissioned officer world was at the tail end of Iraq. Our squad leader couldn't come back for wherever, so we had no more NCOs. It was all specialists or PFCs. I think we're all E4s at the time. There's 6 of us. And we had no NCO leadership because Paul K. Hayes, my platoon sergeant, OEF1, he got promoted, took over the battalion mortar platoon, right? So we got another guy in, took us in, and something happened at home. He had to go, but never came back. So Crabtree's like, you're going to the board. Be ready. Went to the board. I think I crushed it. I passed the board and re-enlisted for Italy. And in my mind, it felt like I was already being a leader to those guys in Iraq, right? Because I was the big brother during OEF1, because the only reason why I had seniority over all those other guys that we went to point is because I got there a month before them, 2 months before them, 3 months before them. So they started stacking. When I got there, there's like 3 guys there. So by the time OEF1 and then OIF1 happened, I was like the senior guy. So I went to the board and I was kind of thrusted into the NCO world. And, I made tons of mistakes, and hopefully I learned from them. But so when I saw leadership, the only thing I knew how to do was when I made Sergeant E5 or Staff Sergeant, Squad Leader, or Platoon Sergeant was do what the leaders did before me, right? That I liked, right? It was like, okay, if I do what they did, it might be okay. And that's what I did. I just kept stacking stuff I was learning from my leaders, and then I would apply it, refine it. And I didn't see soldiers as soldiers. I saw soldiers as people. And that made me a better leader on how I led them, how I mentored them, how I taught them, how I wanted to be. Some people might look back at it and be like, well, you're a little too close to your soldiers. Well, no, I wasn't. I knew where the line was.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I took it as this, tough love. When I got mad, they knew I was mad for a reason. So I just applied that to being a platoon sergeant, then being a first sergeant as an E7, and a first sergeant as a high E8 hard strike, and then on into the sergeant major ranks. But I just kept stacking experiences, and the bad stuff I keep deep inside, and the good stuff I would let out. And the bad stuff you keep inside just kind of catches up to you after.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So Chris, you've given us like a real good kind of overview of your combat experience, and believe me, folks, there are deep dives upon deep dives upon deep dives this man could take us through. But I really want to, and frankly, like open invitation. If you ever want to do one of those deep dives, I'm here for you, man. Something you really want to unpack.
The last one, OIR. I was the ops sergeant major for Operation Inherent Resolve under then Brigadier General Gil Ferguson, who is now Major General Gil Ferguson. That I learned from a soft guy and the community I was with for that deployment. That's a whole nother deep dive of what I learned and how it molded my career, seeing 2 sides of the coin of not just, regular operations, infantry operations, then you get to see the other side of the coin. And that right there is just a superpower that if you use it for good, you could really use to teach, train, and mentor just future warfighters.
Yeah, absolutely. OIR is all what, and for folks at home who don't know what OIR is, it was the counter ISIS campaign that we're still doing today. And actually I was noticing things in Syria are kind of heating up for our SDF counterparts.
Yeah, that like I said, that's a whole nother deep dive.
It really is more political in many ways than it is military, right? Like I got to work with a lot of soft guys in OIR, and I too learned a lot because there's a whole like unconventional indirect kind of approach that we took. I felt it was
thinking outside the box, right? And not thinking like it's incredible. It's incredible.
Totally. Let's backtrack to OEF8, man.
Yes.
Just to set the stage for our listeners, the folks who are getting the real opportunity to learn about your experiences, and from a guy that just, in my opinion, saw a lot. This one really stands out to you personally. So where were you and kind of what was your duty position? Where was your unit and what was kind of your duty position for OEF 8?
Yeah. So yeah, OEF 8, that's another one that started out on the wrong foot, to be honest with you. And when I mean that, I mean just the train up alone. So we got back from OEF 6. We got reset. This is during the the whole whatever that cycle is called, where you just come back, train up, take leave, train up, and you're deploy every year.
The dark days.
Yeah. So we get back. I'm dealing with trying to get my wife down to down there. We're going through EIB. That's where I got my EIB. So now I'm coming off, I feel good. I go with MLOC because we were supposed to go to Iraq. This is another true story. So I get on, I lived off post. I had my own place in Italy there in Vicenza. And so I come in, we're about ready. It's a Friday or a Thursday, and we're getting ready to leave for JRTC on Monday, right? Get on buses. So they give us like a 4-day weekend or some 3-day weekend. Only place to get like a paper or anything American, you have to go on post. So I go to post and I walk in to get some, a 6-pack of beer, 12-pack of beer, whatever it was, and some other things. And on the front of the Stars and Stripes, it said 173rd to deploy to Iraq. We already knew that, we already knew we're going to, I forget anymore because we didn't go.
Yep.
So in our whole JMRC rotation, if I'm saying that right, was geared towards Iraq, specifically the mortar platoon. So we got back, I was still with the mortar platoon, went to EIB, went to MLOC. Now I'm a certified mortarman. I'm going to go to combat as a mortarman, which I did. No shit. I go in the next day. I think it was the next day or 2 days later. I go back in to get some more beer. And I thought it was the same Stars and Stripes, but it said 173rd deployed to Afghanistan. And I'm like, am I seeing shit? No shit. I didn't get in my car. 10 minutes later, I get a phone call. It says, hey, bring it into the CP. I was like, good, because I'm on post right now. Yeah, they had switched our orders to go from Iraq to Afghanistan. When we got to JMRC, the mortar platoon, we cut off. We did our own thing because they were splitting us up into smaller teams in these things called COPs in these valleys, didn't know what all that was. And so it was me, an E5, and my guys, which I'm going to talk about. We shot a shit ton of mortars during JMRC, and we didn't do any stick slings or anything. We focused on mortars. And hindsight now, I know why. I didn't know what we were going into. I didn't know what the Chowkay Valley was. I didn't know what Korengal Valley was. I didn't know Kunar province. Have I been there? Yeah, but they were different parts of my life. And at that point, I'd only been to OEF 1 and OEF 6, and they weren't this area. But we heard a lot of bad shit about it. And so we're getting excited about it. And we came out of JMRC. Now we're going to Afghanistan. It's like, here we go again. Every time I left Afghanistan, I was like, I'm not coming back. I'll never see this place again, And sure as shit, we go in. And my Jay Levy, my platoon sergeant, I was attached to Destin Company, who also had a platoon from Chosen Company attached to them. And we were at a place called Fob Fortress in the Kunar province, right off Highway 1. Our mission was 7 kilometers up into the Chowkay Valley where the road ended. Another 2, 3, 4, 5 kilometers was the Korengal Valley. So our mission was to plug a hole so they can build a road from Chowkay to the Korengal, for just purposes of logistics or whatnot. Well, the Taliban wasn't having it, and we didn't know all this, but that was the mission we're going into. We're getting split up into all these valleys. I had 2 valleys when I first got there. I had the Chowkay and I had the one right of it. I can't remember it because we had to shut it down. And we were just there our mission was to plug those holes, make sure no one comes into the valley. This again, now this is from Staff Sergeant Up's point of view. And in the platoon that was there, so when we got there, I had a gun on Fortress that was just there for, moral support. It really wasn't doing much. And then I had my 120 and an 81 millimeter mortar out in the Chowkay with me. And I had a big point. And when I realized I was the first one out there when we ripped, I wanted to see what it was all about. And the gentleman, the staff sergeant from 10th Mountain, who you could just tell in his eyes, he was done. He wanted nothing more to do with that place. I mean, he had a dead look in his eyes. And here I am, the fresh new guy coming in, thinking I know everything. I'm like, what would you do if you're coming in on me? That's all I want to know. I don't want to bother you, man. Because he really wasn't having it. They were supposed to be there. They were supposed to be there 3 weeks. They stayed 3 hours.
Wow.
We got on ground. I had 3 hours with them. And then they got in trucks and left. And we're like, where's the rip? They left 2 people back to rip. And one of them wasn't my guy.
Wow.
So I asked him, I was like, what'd you do? He's like, if I were you, I'd keep a log starting now. No shit. As he's giving me the story, we started taking fire. And he's like, you guys stay here for this one. They went out, they did their thing, came back. We just observed. They didn't want us in their way. And I was like, I saw it firsthand what he was talking about. So right then and there, that was the first thing I started. Like that first law, I was like, you know what? Maybe I can find a pattern, whatever the case might be. So I took that one piece of advice he gave me. I was like, I got nothing else to do. I might as well start a log. And when we got there, it was a dirt floor. It was a bunker system with HESCOs, no power, no water. We had MREs. and we had a water buffalo that kept getting shot up, and we had to keep plugging the goddamn holes in it.
Mm-hmm.
So we got there. I was like, this is it. And it quieted down. Those guys jumped in their Humvees and left. And I just sat there looking at my guys on cots like, what did we just get ourselves into?
Oh.
I could show you pictures of this place.
Brother, that is like risk factors goes through the roof when you don't have that continuity from the past unit. That's crazy, man.
Yeah, it was insane. They thought leaving 2 guys behind, the PL2 sergeant for the PL2 sergeant, but the mortar guy, like after telling me all this bad shit that's happened to him for the last, because they were only there, I think it was 3 months. They established it, held it, didn't do shit. They didn't leave the wire once. And we're like, oh, see, our PL's coming in, like, we're going to leave wire. We're here, we're rock, this is what we do, He's like, no, you can't. Don't go outside the wire. You're going to get shot. You're going to get separated, so on and so forth. So their rip's going pretty well. They're getting good information. But here I am just shooting, so they leave. I'm just telling you the first 24 hours in this place, and then we'll get. So this dude leaves, and right before dusk, we start taking heavy fire again. Now here I am. I'm trying to figure out my little data, how many rounds I had. Like, he left me with shit. Like, I had HE mixed in with the Willie P on this gun. This gun wasn't even it wasn't even on its base plate. And I got guys looking at me scared as shit. Like here I am, like, hey, Mr. Up, you're the guy with all this combat experience. What are you gonna do now? So I had to have a talk with Jesus and start looking at myself for real. I'm like, all right, guys, this is how it's gonna be, man. 15 fucking months. This is a 15-monther, and you can read through the log and see kind of where it crescendoed. But there's 3 moments during this deployment I really want to ping on, if that's okay.
Yeah, go lead on, man.
And I'll save I'll save 31 July for last. So one place, these notes looking back on them that I truly enjoyed were 2 key moments. And I know I typed them to you, and I just remember them offhand, obviously, because I was involved with both of them. Here's a good story. If you're watching, everybody wants to make fun of air assault school, but when you're the only air assault qualified guy in an airborne unit, they expect you to be able to sling load shit. So yeah, I had to quickly go into my Rolodex about air assault school, how to, and not only that, it was a configuration for a Bobcat. I was winging it. And I knew that Chinook was coming in, and this thing had been shot up so many times it didn't even run anymore. So we drug it out to the middle of the HLZ, and I was like, hey, I need you to come as soon as the sun's up. Like, no shit, as soon as the sun's up, because we're going to get shot at. And I rigged it at night because I didn't want to be out there in the middle of the HLZ. It was just enough for a Black Hawk to sit down, but a Chinook couldn't sit down. It could only. And so I was under headlamp, red lens at night, trying to get this thing all ready. And I remember eyeing it, like, yeah, that looks good. I think it'll be able to pull this thing up out of here. So I get up there, and it's early. I mean, it's early, and I'm telling you, I'm the only guy up, and the guys in the tower. No one was getting up with me to help me with this shit. They're like, you go do it. So I had it all ready. It was just one swab, and here comes the Chinook, and I'm on top of it, and I have my guys out there with me, and they're holding me up, and here it comes. And no shit, as I went to do this, I was kind of looking back because I didn't want to get sand in my eye. I went to do that. I just saw all my guys scatter like they were like, because I couldn't hear. I was under Chinook. I couldn't hear anything, but they were shooting at the Chinook, and the Chinook was wobbling, and I just thought it was me. And I'm up under here, and I'm like, I finally did it on. And as I'm going to step off, it pulled, and I went off the damn thing and rolled off to the side. And then when it pulled off, that's when I heard the machine gun fire and the rockets. And I'm like, oh shit. And I'm in the middle of the HLZ, zigging and look like an idiot if you're watching on Predator feed. But we get down there and we do it. And I learned, there's a lot of lessons learned from not just us, but us as a FOB. It's just security for that HLZ. Because we had an A&A captain up on the top side I'm going to talk about in a second, at least the second one. But that day, that scared a lot of pilots too. There was a lot of pilots that wouldn't come into the Chowkay anymore. So it was hard to get any materials in there, this, that, and the other. Even when they would come in with back in when we had the OH-58s, those are the badasses of the sky. The Apache, no one wanted to come into the valley to help except for the OHs. Those dudes would come in, drop dip for us, whatever, fly up. It was awesome. I love those guys. I wish they would have never got rid of those guys. Mm-hmm. So now you move into this date, and I'll never forget it because it was between Ranch House and Wenat. So I don't know how much your listeners know about Ranch House, how it got overran. Good friend of mine, Conrad Begay, got a Silver Star. Eric Phillips, another guy, got a Distinguished Service Cross for that one. I mean, it was a hell of a firefight, but they held the enemy back at the gates, right? I think the only person that got into the base was the leader, and he had a tape on him that what they were trying to do, overrun it, kill everybody, so on and so forth, and they pushed them back. Those are real heroes in the world. So come to find out, March, we we're just sitting in our, by this time we have power, we have generators, we have two because they keep getting shut up. We have to switching them out. We have a makeshift shower. We have walls. So we got wood. So we have like a door to get into. It's not an open room anymore. We have wood floors. We've established a cop now, right? I'm not living like like a caveman like I did for the first month, where the only place we could stay cool if we had gas was inside a truck running the damn air conditioner all day, because it was called a VPB, vehicle patrol base. We had to create it. We're sitting in there and just doing our nightly. We had a TV. We had a couple TVs, we bought from the bazaar. We hooked it up and had Xboxes and whatnot in this shithole. It was the only thing we had. And out of nowhere here, we hear our interpreter runs in, breathing, like sweating. We're like, what? He's like, we have guys in the wire. We have guys in the wire. We have bad guys in the wire. We're like, what the fuck? So A&A are screaming in their language. Obviously, we don't know what they're saying. We only have one interpreter who's running around everywhere. So I go out and I just start shooting a loom up. Boom, 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 boom. Sure as shit when there was a loom pop, man. There's two guys inside the wire. And we'd seen lights coming down all night, but we couldn't realize what they were. Like it looked like a trail of flashlights, but it didn't look like they were moving. It was so weird. Come find out they were trying to breach our wire to get inside, and and we found all the material. They were trying to open the door. They were going to breach from opened our inside gate that looked like a damn a drawbridge.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty, and they had a whole plan. So when I shot up those Illum, the ANA saw these guys and started ripping at them. And we're still unbeknownst what the hell's going on. We're like, so our interpreter's running around. There's guys in the wire. We got guys in the wire. We got guys inside. Now we got everybody freaking out. Like who's bad, who's good. So we're like, stay away from the ANA, stay back. We'll figure this thing out. Now I'm in both mortar pits, firing a Loom HE Willie P at the lights that my PO had established. And then I did danger close 2 HE proxes right on the fucking wire.
Wow.
And when the smoke cleared, we found blood, clothing, some paperwork, ID, found all kinds of shit in the wire because they were actually trying to crawl through it. And then they would have had to climb up over the HESCO, and they'd found the blind spot where we had 2 gun trucks down through a wadi. I'll tell you what, I had to talk. That night we had to talk. We all sat down after that one because we couldn't believe what was happening. Like they were literally trying to ranch house us. Like they had a plan. One of the pieces of thing we found on him was the intel that we found said in the video, he's like, if I do not complete my mission and get inside this base and kill all these Americans, I will wear a woman's shawl or a woman's whatever.
Wow.
Like he was that cocky that he was going to be able to do it. And I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for the ANA on top that heard something and started screaming like banshees, and my interpreter actually doing work and not just sleeping and doing things, like we could have very easily been overrun that night. So that night, we put a plan together. Like we found all our blind spots. We ordered artist cameras back in the day, little cameras. I mean, we went out and we plugged every hole. So now I had a whole system in there that we could watch because obviously I was the mortarman, so we had the CP. And it got to a point where they knew where our cameras were. They were purposely shooting at our cameras first, and that was another cat and mouse game for that entire deployment.
Wow.
But that was a surreal moment. Now, when you fast forward with Wanat, right? A lot of people don't know about Wanat. I mean, I would think a lot of people do that are in the ranks, but seeing what happened at Ranch House and then what could have happened here, and who knows at any other FOB, right? That could have happened. But then it happened at Wanat, in the way it did. Looking back on that, I'm like, I'm still alive. How am I still alive, right? So those two key moments right there kind of meshed with me. And those both happened, obviously, later on after I was already wounded. Now, this is hard to talk about, but yeah. I will. All right, so OEF8, as you know, and what you've seen, you got Restrepo, right? You get an intimate look on what was going on in the Cornwall and the surrounding areas. I lost one of my closest friends. We're all close. Like, Larry Rugel, Chris Holbrook. He passed away. Ian Foote. All these guys, we're all best friends. So it's just like, hey, I know Larry, or we all went to PLDC together. We were all E5s together. We all grew up together, did OEF6 together. He was the one that was killed in Restrepo. And that really, not that I hadn't lost friends in the past, but at this point, I had never lost a close friend. So close that this is how crazy it was. Colonel Austin knew how close our group was. Mm-hmm. That he flew me and another buddy of mine out of the Chowkay to go to the main FOB for the memorial service, mm-hmm. because he knew me, Chris Choi, Michael Grabsky. And here's what kills me. Another one of our sorry.
That's all right, man. Take your time.
Another one of our friends. So crazy enough, Michael Gable came and did his. He was in first of the 503rd. He came up there and did his eulogy at his services there at the battalion headquarters. And we all got pictures afterwards and this, that, and the other. And a month and a half later, Gable was killed.
Mm-hmm.
And the part that just eats me is they were roommates. So my future PL after our PL was killed, and then we had another one that was wounded. He was the PL on Rear D that had to go clear out the rooms.
Mm-hmm.
He had to go clear out first Larry's stuff and had to go back clear out Michael's stuff later. And that just that rocked me for a while. I mean, it still rocks me. So I talk about it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
CT, can I ask you a question, man? I'm sorry. Can I ask you a real quick question on that? So you guys are brothers. You know, one of the challenges that when you lose teammates within your unit, right, is, being able to compartmentalize some of this stuff because you still have a fight going on. As you mentioned, you have to go back out, take it to the enemy. You have to go back out. You have to, fix up your force pro. How do you as a leader, make sure that your guys have the chance to process, grieve, and balance that with the requirement of, hey, we got to get back out the door, or, and continue on operations. And then my follow up to that is, at this time, you're a senior NCO, you're running, the mortars. Who's doing that for you? Who's watching over to make sure that your whole reason for being is to make sure you take care of your guys? Who's doing that for you?
All right. So your first question, the example I give you, so crazy enough, after Larry was killed and it was made known, me, Chris Chereau is another good friend of mine. He's also a Silver Star recipient. We were close with Larry. We were both on the same fob in Chowkay. We were both in Chowkay together. And this is how close 503rd was. When your S3 and your battalion commander, sergeant major, know you guys personally enough to know who his close friends were. That night when they called us on the radio and said, "Hey, we're coming to get you to take them to the thing," we had this little crow's nest on top of our main structure there in the Chowkay. And we had tow missiles and stuff up there. We get up in there and fire up in the mountain. It was a ladder to get up there, but it was also a very private spot, where it was at. And I remember going up there. I told my guys, like, "Hey, I'll be back. I'm in the earshot. I don't have my radio. I'll know if something's going on." And I went up in there, and Specialist Drake was in there. And I was like, "Hey, Drake, take a break, bro. I'll take your guard shift for you." And I broke down like a fucking baby for at least 30 minutes. And all I kept running was all of our times together. All of our times together. And it just kept going and going and going. It was eating me up to sit up there and just all I was thinking about. And sure as shit, that night we took a 107 round. And didn't hit our fob, didn't hit anywhere, but it woke me the fuck up. And I was like, holy shit. So I'm running down the stairs. I'm like, what happened? Where we at? Where did it hit? What's this, that, and the other? And I had 30 minutes to grieve. And then I was back in mission mode again. And I never looked back. The next time it hit me is when we flew in and I saw all my buddies from different fobs who we were all split up across the battle, but we were all super close. We skydived together there in TNA, Italy. We drank together, we partied together, we fought together, multiple deployments now. And it's just like, we were the group everybody knew. We were like staff sergeants, they kind of get the big brother bro type of mentality. They're making just enough money to have fun, but don't have enough rank to really be able to do anything. So you're just kind of the guy going out there winging it, having fun. Fuck it, that was us. We were just fucking dudes that like to jump out of planes and shoot people, And I held it together after that 30 minutes. I got up there and I saw everybody. We did the service, and when I got on that helicopter to go with Chereau to go back into the Chowkay, I said I had to leave it there at that time. Did it catch up with me after the deployment with alcohol? Yeah, absolutely, and that's another deep dive one day. But let me talk about my guys, man, before I even get into so OEF. My guys was a ragtag bunch of guys, right? I had 4 real 11 Charlies, and the rest were either 11 Bravo or some other MOS. I had Alex Arnone. These guys were young. These guys were all going on their first fucking deployment, right? Except for my Sergeant Davidson. I think he had one prior. So during the train up, I'm telling them every story on the book, every lesson I can. I was like, the one thing I was wrong on was like, hey man, pack your Xboxes, pack this. We're going to go to a fob. You'll have everything there. You play games, lift weights, and then we'll go out, fucking kill people and come back and play video games again. I was completely wrong about OEFA. There was none of that. So we packed all the wrong shit because Fortress, you could do that, but me and my guys were never at Fortress. I left a skeleton crew there on that gun. It was usually Sergeant Davison and guys I would rotate to shower and be able to sleep without getting shot at. It was decompression zone, I called it. I would never leave. My platoon sergeant, the one talking about Jay Levy, would make me leave because I just never wanted to leave the valley. I didn't feel right knowing my guys were out there getting shot at, and I'm sitting back here lifting weights and eating pasta or whatever the hell they're making. So I remember I got in a fight with him over the radio, and he checked me quick. I was in the Chowkay, and he's like, "You need to come. I'm at Fortress. You need to come to Fortress on the next thing burning, so I can do inventory." I'm like, "I got Dave's back there. You can do inventory. I'm not leaving the valley." Oh, let's just say his ass came up in the valley, grabbed me, and brought me back out of the valley again. Yep. He grounded me for about 2 weeks. I was pretty upset about that. But the greatest thing that ever happened to me, Jay Levy is the one that kept me grounded. Not only was he super smart, like the smartest guy I know, he's the one that truly taught me mentoring, right? He taught me what mentoring is truly meant before Earl Rice did, right? Crabtree taught me how to be a leader. He taught me how second chances can change your life. He taught me how to be a young leader. Whereas Jay Levy molded me into the man I am today with the help of Earl Rice, because I was a wild card, man. I was the one, my wife still kicks me today, and I'm out of the Army now, so you can't do anything to me. But we used to get, our PTSD was so bad, we would go get drunk off wine, throw a fucking parachute on and jump out the plane like dumb stuff because we're young. All we know is combat. All we know is excitement, adrenaline. And then you want to put me in back here? Like, what do you expect from me?
Yeah.
But these guys were all young. Alex Arnone, Steve Hilliard, Adam Dumas. He wasn't even an 11 Bravo. He was like a mechanic or something. Wesley Cyrus, he was 11 Bravo. Kyle Fleming, so I had Christopher Gross. He got hit by an RPG, survived, but it really fucked him up while I was on leave.
Mm-hmm.
We was one of the 5 wounded while I was on leave, and that ate at me forever.
Yeah.
So I got back, he was gone, and I got Kyle Fleming, who was a stud from another platoon. I think Jay pulled him from one of the places that wasn't taking as much heat and gave him to me, and he is probably still a rock star to this day. They all were rock stars. And I had Patrick Scott. This kid's 11 Bravo, and he knew how to do everything. He was my plumber, my woodworksman, my generator fixer. He was the jack of all trades. Like, these guys, I would look in the fear in their eyes, and I just remember, like, these guys signed up to be here, and these guys aren't cowards. We are here to fight for each other. Sergeant Levi Davison was my squad leader. I was a section sergeant. So 31 July, at this point, we'd only been there a couple months. You can count how many ticks we were in prior to this one.
Mm-hmm.
They're all pretty, but we heard, like you hear with every other one of these type of events, because there's a lot of good stories out there, war stories, heroes out there that, like Chapman and all these fobs that were taking fire. This day was just different. We'd heard there's going to be a big attack, but, our egos got the best of us. They can't get us. What are they going to do? We thought we were studs. We'd already been 2 months. Both platoons would take patrols out, and both patrols got cut off and had to do the Mogadishu mile back to the fob. So their rip, they warned them, and it was true. So we would every once in a while get out there to the gray zone, we called it. So that area between the Korengal and the Chowkay, where there was no road, there's a village and a valley that came through. We kind of cut it the gray zone because it was just, they would come attack us, refine their skills, push into the Korengal, and the rest is history, right? You've seen Restrepo. And it was just like, we were like the plug from Pakistan. So as they come in, so we're always hearing stuff. We would hear, going back to your foreign fighters, we'd have our interpreter with the whatever we used to call them. You remember we used to call those things, the tracker where you would pick up radio signals.
That's right. Yeah. And the interpreters would hold them up and listen.
Sure. Yeah. Listen to them, what they're saying, so on. And that's, we knew when people were around us, but he started hearing Chechens, their language, like Russian, all kinds of Eastern European languages. He's like, I don't know this language. And there was all kinds of foreign fighters in there, training them, shooting at us. One of our medics was shot right through the neck through a Chechen sniper on this deployment, left to a wheelchair, unfortunately, but he was a stud medic, still is a stud and a medic. But these guys were deadly with these sniper rifles. And the thing is they were getting smart. I mean, as you see, they would shoot us with every machine gun dishka they had and everything. And then they would be on a lower level and they would be covering their sniper shots with everything else. So we'd be looking this way, firing at this guy or this guy. And we were taking sniper shots from other areas. We had no idea. And we found this out later looking at the artist cameras and saying, where is that a gun flash? Go back. That was a gun flash. It was a muzzle flash. So we had to evolve to them. They were evolving to us. It was a cat and mouse game for 15 months. But 31 July was different. It was like any other night. Didn't have much, but this time we had power. We had a water buffalo. we had established a pretty good, decent footprint here in the Chowkay. It wasn't perfect yet, but it was almost there. And every night we'd play poker. You know, we all the NCOs get around. We had the radio. We'd play poker. If we didn't get shot at, went to bed, wake up the next morning, so on and so forth. I was 11 Charlie. I came from HHC. So when I left HHC, Levy gave me a satellite phone so we could call home. Like, we're a different company. We didn't want to use their stuff. We all got one. So in the Valley, I could use the phone, give it to my guys to call once a month or once whenever. And it was also an emergency device because comms in the Chowkay sucked. So I always left it off. And when I turned it on, you know, I only had so much time on it. And this night, I was sitting at the table. I was just setting up the table for poker or whatnot. The guys are all around, and we're out of comms. But this was nothing new to us. Like, comms are always intermittent in that valley. Either comes or it goes. But it was at the wrong time this night. So it was always at the time we call the witching hour. We're going to get attacked tonight. We already had ICOM chatter. But to us, it was just like any other fight we've been in prior to this. You know, big, little, small, like, we can handle it. And this is the survivor guilt in me. And this still eats to me this day. So Ben Hall comes in, and he doesn't play poker. Obviously, he didn't play poker, so he was an Eagle Scout. Good guy. And I was like, hey, sir, you coming to play poker with us or what? You in on this one? He's like, you know, I don't play poker. He's like, I do need a favor, though. Can I use your phone? I'm like, absolutely, sir. So I went over and grabbed it, and I had it, and I was looking at him like, sir, the 7 doesn't work. You have to dial a 7. He's like, I don't know. I got the number right here, and I'm looking at it. I was like, here, I'll just go out there with you. You give me the number, I'll dial, I'll give you the phone. I was like, because it is a pain in the ass, and I don't want you out there too long. So I went to go get my IBA. He's like, no, you're good. You're good. I don't have my IBA on. You're good. And I'm like, no, he's like, no, I don't need you to go out with me. Just give me the phone. I'm like, all right, sir, fine. So I gave him the phone. I sat down. I was there just messing with cards or something. And that's when I heard it. Boom. I mean, and it rocked my radios off the fucking thing. And I was like, and of course, it's on. Let's go. Get her, you know, the whole fucking getting your shit on. You're getting ready to get out the fucking door. My guys put videos on YouTube, by the way. Look up Chow, and it just kind of shows you what it looked like. But it was always just running through hell to get to the pits. By this time, I had built a third pit, a dummy pit, and I put a broomstick in it. And I would rotate my 120 and my 81 because they were just hammering us. They couldn't get the mortar pit. I always let out the door. I never let anybody else lead out the door. And I did that because I made the decision. If something happens, then nobody else can take the blame for it, what route we went, how we got in there. And I tell Davison, if he was out there with me, if he wasn't the father, I'm like, I'm going to the 120, you go to the 81, 1, 2, 3, go. Boom, we split out to, we had to do it intermittently. It was just crazy. So when I heard that, I got down, I remember calling assault report, saying, hey, Chowkay's hit. I told my guys, get your shit on, so wait outside the door before you leave the HESCO. So you come out, you take a right, you go about 25 meters, and you go into at this time, it was my 81 pit. And you go straight, you go up. You have to expose yourself to get down into at that time was my 120 pit. But on the backside of my 120 pit was the only place you can get reception with that damn phone, right where I burned my cheese charges, right? After. And unbeknownst to me, after that hit, obviously gunfire followed right after, and I get out to the pit. My guys get out to the other pit, and I had given them instructions, pre-fire. We had all pre-fire targets. It's general location they're always at. Find out where they're at and traverse onto them and kill them. I go to the 120 pit. So the whole time I get into the pit, I'm getting my shit together. I'm ripping the fucking top off. I'm starting to just, all right, we're taking fire from here. I did a lot of direct lay because if you looked inside my mortar pits, I had target reference points everywhere with elevation and charge. So I didn't have to think. It was point, charges, this is where it's going to go. I'll go from there. Fastest, most efficient way I can do it. The only time I got out my LHNBC was if I was trying to do a targeted mission where we knew exactly where they were at. That happened this night too. I get into the pit, an RPG hits almost the same spot, but it hit my bunker. It hit my mortar pit and blew shrapnel and everything and collapsed my HE bunker. Our known was there, and I was blown back up against the wall. I remember seeing Dumas in our known and the fear in there. And I have one in the Willie P pit in the bunker. I have one in the HE bunker. And I'm like sitting there and just throwing me fucking rounds. And I just saw the fucking fear in their eyes, and I felt so bad. I was like, you know what? I can't let anything happen to these guys tonight. There's no fucking way. So between machine gun bursts, RPGs, my burn pit is on fire. My camo net that's over my shit's on fire. I'm trying to throw a burning camo net off of my fucking shit. And then another rocket hits, and I don't remember that. I remember I just dropped the round, and boom. And I saw Dumas over top of me Sergeant, get up, Sergeant. And I remember waking up and my arm was bleeding. And I was like, what happened? He's like, I don't know. He didn't know. He had got blown into the bunker. Arnon was already halfway in the bunker that was blown up. Steve Hilliard, Fleming, and my other guys, they were getting taxed at the other one. And I remember looking up and I just remember I couldn't hear shit. And I remember looking at my bipod and shrapnel had ripped through the traversing mechanism that goes up and down.
Oh.
And I was like, I couldn't move it. And I was like, fuck, we're fucked. So I said, fuck it. I told Dumas, I was like, hey, give me something to fucking wrap my arm. I mean, it was just bleeding everywhere. And I was just like, so I wrapped my arm and I was like, hey, Dumas, that's all I need you to do, brother. I was like, fucking start laying rounds out, roll them to me, just roll me rounds. And I just remember putting the tube up on my shoulder. And my dumb ass, I remember it was burning, but I didn't care about that. The thing that was worrying me is I didn't know how to get a fucking 120 round up my leg in here. So I remember telling Dumas, I was like, hold the tube, hurry up, hold the fucking tube. And I turned around and I put it on my back here over my shoulder.
Jesus.
And I had it to where the bipod was kind of like sitting there like a seat so I could keep it kind of sturdy.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I kept trying to get down to grab around. I kind of grab around and I stick my head this way and I put the tail in and I just go, boom. I was like, fuck this, I can't do this. I was like, I'd switch shoulders and I'd say, Arnon, come over here. Arnon would come over. I'd like put around and go, boom. And then we would just take fire. So I just said, fuck this. What at this time, I was so numb to anything and everything that I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't a hero. I was just literally, I thought I had to be the bipod. Like I had no other way of shooting those rounds. And I was like, I can't. So I was moving it. And I was like, I told her, no, do I look good? Where am I aiming at? And then I turned around and I was like, all right, right there. Turn my head, boom. And I did that for I don't know how long. We took a couple more rounds. I had to knock down. So then we started taking fire. This is the hard. So we got to a point where I couldn't even fire mortars anymore. We couldn't do shit. So I pushed down. We had a saw. So my guys had a saw. We had 240, I think. I know we had a saw. I think we had 2 saws. So we could defend ourselves from the pit, which we did several times. We'd fire from the pit or whatever, especially if we had air on hand and we couldn't shoot mortars. I have a funny story about that for another day. But so we had to defend from the pit. And I remember knocking down half of my wall in order to put guns and fire back in one of the directions we were firing from. And that's when I saw Ben Hall's foot and leg.
And Ben Hall, who you had handed the phone to.
Yeah. So I saw a leg. I didn't know it was Ben Hall at the time. And I told Arnon, I was like, go get the guys from the other pit. We're done firing. By this time, you couldn't see shit. It was dark. I mean, I couldn't see 3 feet. I mean, there was so much Willie P and smoke in the fucking air. You would see tracers coming from them, tracers coming from us. I mean, it looked, I could send you a video of a firefight that wasn't this one that was completely just fucking amazing. And you just see streaks. You don't know where they're hitting. I mean, they're hitting everywhere. And it was the most amazing sight I ever saw in my fucking life this night because of the smoke and everything, the light. I mean, it was just, so I told Arnon, I was like, take the gun because I had the saw. I put it up. I told them just hand me rounds and I was just firing. I'd switch weapons. I remember leaving the pit, going up there, and as I got closer, that's where I saw the blood. I mean, it was... So me, Arnon, I think it was Sergeant Roberts, the platoon sergeant, another great human. We carried him down into the CP. We had an aid station on the other side. So you had the CP where me and my mortarman lived, and then you had the PL platoon sergeant area that they had also converted into a makeshift aid station. And we picked him up and we put him up on there. And Doc was trying to get his vitals. And he's like, I have a pulse. We're like, yes. And I remember looking down and there's so much blood. And I don't know why for the life of me, but I just started cleaning it up. I was just like, I had nothing else to do. Doc had him. I couldn't stare at him no more. It was so surreal just seeing him. And like he was. And so I started cleaning up blood and I worked my way to the door and I walked out the door. I went into the CP and we're still taking fire. Mm-hmm. Like it wasn't stopping. And one of the platoon, it wasn't Sergeant Roberts, one of the other SWAT leaders was in there on the radio He said, up. And I didn't look, but my whole arm was soaked in blood. He's like, dude, are you wounded? I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm like, he's like, well, Haz, like, I don't know. We're good. I have to get back out to the pit. Lieutenant Hall's next door. Call up. Like, I was telling him to call up the 9 line. So I was giving him all the information from the 9 line, and I left. So I go back out to the pit. Both tubes are fried at this point. My bipod doesn't even work on the other one. My arms, now I'm starting to feel my arm. I took something in my leg right here, my hip. Like, I was just a mess. And I was like, we need to get our shit together. We need to dig these rounds out. We need to get all this fire out. We need to do everything. And I remember going back down into the CP to make sure he set up the 9 line so I could give it to the 2 sergeant next door. And I was just running back and forth. By this time, there was a lull in the fire, a lull in the fight. And it had been probably about 45 minutes, an hour. So I go back down and I go in, and I was like, did you call the 9 line? He said, yes. I went next door. I said, hey, the 9 line's called. We need to get him out of here now. Sergeant Roberts. So at this point, Lieutenant Hall is wounded. In our minds, he's wounded. Sergeant Roberts is the top guy. He's RE7, phenomenal leader. He took control, obviously, but he had his line guys. And so he was looking at me to try to get Lieutenant Hall to the HLZ. And I was like, I got you. You do what you have to do. Get the line out. I will get this. I will get him up there. So me and my boys and one of his guys, we heard the bird coming in. And that's when the fire kicked up again. So we get him halfway up near to the HLZ, and it pulled out. The Black Hawk pulled out. Apaches came in, and because they started taking fire again. So now you got smoke. No one knows where it's coming from. I am 4 feet from I'm in cover, but 4 feet about to go into the open. We have Lieutenant Hall right here. We're waiting, and the Apaches cleared air station. He came in. Now, when we pulled him out there, and he came down in the line, he's like, hey, he's like, where is Sergeant Up? Completely threw me off. I'm like, I'm Sergeant Up. Why do you need to know about who I am? Don't worry about me. Worry about him. Let's go. He's like, no. You got to go. I'm like, the fuck I do? And we're having a fight. Somebody, I don't know who it was, he pulled me and said, just go. So they hooked me up. I went up in the fucking bird. And I remember just sitting up there, like, just completely dazed in the red light. And I'm almost like, to me, it seemed like forever, but it's probably only 20, 30 seconds. And I remember coming back and looking over the edge, and I see them trying to pull Lieutenant Hall up. He's down on the ground. The other guy's pulling security and shooting out the door. So I was the only one in there that could do anything. So when he came up, they had him, and he almost slipped out of the harness.
Wow.
This is when I found out how bad his injury was. So when I went to lean out to grab him to pull him in, I had put my arm through his wound, not knowing it. I did not. All I saw was the front when he was on the table. I didn't see the back. And when he pulled in and I had him right here. And then the guy came up, and I was trying to hand him off to him because I was like, I don't know if he's alive. I don't know if he's fucking dead. I don't fucking anything, man. Well, like, take him. I don't know what to do. And no, he shoved him back down in my lap. He's like, he gave me the thing to put on his mouth and just keep squeezing. So for that flight from there to, I forget the name of the base right outside before they took us to Jalalabad, I was just squeezing. He was just doing his thing. And but I knew from where my hand, because my hand had gone up past the wrist into his body, not by complete accident. And I was like, his whole back's gone. In my mind, I'm like, there's no way he's alive. So we landed. They took Ben Hall first, and then they took me. I got in there. I was in a separate room, and I just kept asking about him. They were trying to sew me up, and they were ripping all my clothes off because it was all full of blood or whatnot. And they couldn't put me back on the helicopter with Ben Hall because he was a fallen hero. So they took Hall, picked up, pushed over, brought another Black Hawk in that had to take me. The last time I saw Ben Hall was when we got off in Jalalabad. I was looking over the gurney. They were taking him one way, and they were taking me the other. And that's kind of when I knew he was fucking gone. But that one just hit just so many fucking reasons, man. So many fucking reasons that one hit hard, because the survivor's guilt. Like, I don't know how many times I've played out the fucking, I should have been there with him, you know, and a lot of times I wish I was, but if I was, I mean, so then that one hit, pretty hard. Yeah. And then so they take me in there, and all I asked is about Hall. Then they come in a little bit later. They stuffed me in a room on my own in the hospital there. Like I was a fucking sideshow or something. It was a hospital room on Bagram in the hospital, but it had glass walls. So it was just like I was anyway. I kept asking. I was like, they finally told me he had died, and that the ramp ceremony was in 2 days.
Yeah,
I was like, I want to be there. I want to be there. I want to carry his body on the fucking plane. There's nobody else here who fucking knows him. I want to do that. And the doctor swore up down, you will be, you will be, you will be. Thank you. That's all I asked. So for the next 48 hours in that fucking hospital, I talked to like, I don't know how many psychiatrists. I got in a room. This is another true story. I get in there and she's asking me 1,000 questions. And I'll never forget the one question. She's like, do you know what time of the day it is? And I'm like, yeah, it's 2 or 14 something. She's like, okay. There's a fucking clock hanging on the wall right behind him. And I'm like, this is a joke, right? Like, I was so mad. I was like, Hall's dead. I'm stuck in a room. People are like staring at me like I'm something from a different universe, because those guys in those fobs, they don't know what the hell's going on outside that wire. They think it's General Hospital in there. And the story was, when I got rolled over, they took a they took a blood test to make sure I wasn't on drugs. I was like, I wasn't the one driving, bro. Why are you taking a drug test as I'm injured, have a concussion, and laying on a gurney in Salerno? They're taking blood to make sure I wasn't on drugs or alcohol. That's how out of fucking some of these people that deployed to combat zone are completely lost on what's going on outside the fog. So now I'm inside this hospital in Bagram. I know my PL's dead somewhere on this. My guys are still out there. I had no idea what's happening. 3 days go by. Guess who I get to meet? General Franks, to give me a Purple Heart. So they give me this uniform, right? This fresh, brand new uniform that doesn't even fit me, with nothing on it. They give me an American flag and a 173rd patch. And they put me in a car and they take me to the headquarters, and I'm standing in front of I think it was General Franks at the time. Maybe it wasn't. The picture's out there somewhere. The article's out there somewhere. And it's him giving my Purple Heart from what happened 3 nights ago or something like that. And he's asking me, he's like, what can I do for us? I was like, get me out of this place, sir. I need to get back out there. He's like, we're going to do that for you. Okay, cool. Thank you. They take me right back to I called it the fishbowl, where everybody can just stare at me as I'm sitting there. All my gear is still with me, covered in blood. They took my weapon, everything. But my uniform, they gave me a new uniform, but kept all my gear, my IB, everything was still with me. And it was all full of shit. So guys that would bring in my food, these medics or whatever, nurses, they were like, oh, wow, is that your stuff? Is that, I mean, like, are you, I was going crazy in there. They were like, thought it was like they thought it was like a show and tell or something, man. And I was like, that was the point. I think I was in there day 6, day 7, day 8. I was going fucking mad. And I finally just left. I literally walked out. No one said a fucking word. And I went back to the brigade headquarters. I got there, and it's kind of Bagram was kind of our brigade headquarters, and no one was there. So it was just the people running the skeleton crew. And I walk in there and they're like, who are you? And I'm like, I'm Sergeant Up. I came out of the Chowkay medevac. I'm trying to get back. And they're like, oh, we got to put you into transient. Whatever, just put me in transient. So I go in there and I set up shop in transient, waiting for a flight out. And I swear to God, it must have been the MPs. They were looking for me fucking everywhere. Hey, you weren't supposed to be released from the hospital. How'd you get out of the hospital? We got to take you back. And this was my unit telling me that they had to take me back to the hospital. I'm like, I'm not going back there, Sergeant. I think it was an East 7. I don't remember his name. And I was like, I'm not going back. I'm not going back to that fucking hospital. They're going to come fucking get me if I'm not leaving. I got to get back out. I got to go. Like, I have an E5 running my guns right now. I can't have that. Like, I'm thinking of everything under the sun to tell this guy, get me the fuck out of Bagram. He's like, let me see what I can do. He came back. I went to Chow, came back. He came back. He's like, hey, we can get you out of here tomorrow, but it doesn't mean you're safe, man, because I told him I'll bring you back. I'm like, I don't care. Just get me out of here. So I got on one of the blue rings or ring routes to get me out of there. I got back to Jalalabad, which was like returning to the scene of the crime. And then back to Fortress. And then I was back in the valley less than 2 weeks later because I couldn't stay there. Never heard about it again. So I get back. I spend maybe 3 or 4 days at Fortress. I told First Sergeant Rucker, I was like, I want to be on the first thing back out to the Chowkay. I can't be here. He's like, I understand. I got you. He's another amazing human being. He made it pretty high in the Command Sergeant Major ranks as well. He got me out there. He took care of his soldiers on the FOB, and I blessed him for that. But that's not where I spent most of my time. And I got back out there, and it was surreal. It was bad, but at the same time, it was healing. And that was only 3 months into a 15-month deployment, you know?
Wow.
And the Silver Star, ironically enough, I got a call on the radar from I think he was our XO, Major Bilko. Dude's fucking another incredible human being. Another one. He called me on the radio over TACSAT. Why to this day I don't know. And I was embarrassed. And again, it goes back to the fraudulent, but he told me that, hey, we want you to know you're going to be awarded the Silver Star. I didn't know what to say. I didn't think it was right. I was like, there's a lot of guys here who deserve Silver Stars. So I thought it was very, sorry, Major Bilko, wherever you are now. I just thought it was very inappropriate for me. I didn't need to hear that. I didn't even need to know that. But he did ask me. He's like, what do you need out there in the Chowkay? I was like, I need red phosphorus. Taliban hate red phosphorus. That's all we hear is raining fire. Give me more of that and we're good to go. Let's just say that dude found me probably 200 rounds of red phosphorus from somewhere. And so if the only good thing to come out of that Silver Star was to get red phosphorus, then I'll take it, because that scared the shit out of the Taliban out there. But the event itself, the things that stuck with me was in the helicopter with that still eats me to today. That was the nightmares over and over. Seeing Dumas's eyes, like, I don't know why I pinned my mind pinpointed to certain things during that night. One of them was my soldier's eyes. I'll never fucking forget it. And I remember asking myself, do I look like that? Not that it was bad, not that it was anything bad. It was, this is why my guys deserved, they built that just like the platoons from Chosen and Destined did. We fought to hold and keep it for powers above us to do what we had to do to keep the core goal as safe as we could, because that place was the hell zone too, you know? Anything got through us was going to them. So anything we could kill before it got to them was our mission, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and to just see that, and then the being in the helicopter, and then the events and everything that led to that, and then just I think where the animosity, the hatred, I don't know, that's such a strong word, the dislike for people who aren't us,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I'm sure regiment guys and soft guys say the same thing, is when I got medevac and I sat in that fucking hospital, and they were more worried about flirting with each other and looking at the weird guy inside the glass room with the fucking bloody outfit. You know, were they taking care of me? Yes, they were. But just, there's a little bit of fucking professionalism that should come with when a guy comes in from outside the wire. Don't act like it's fucking Candyland in here.
Mm-hmm.
But that had happened to me twice, and it the wrong way when they're trying to take blood. I remember telling them as I'm in the neck brace, looking up after that rollover, yo, I wasn't even driving. Why are you taking a blood test? Yeah. As they're ripping my pants off and my junk's hanging out and everybody's staring at it, and it's ridiculous. So yeah, that OEF8, you know, and just to tell you how bad that was, the ripping unit that came in behind us and you can read it in that thing, lost 3 guys wounded, just ripping in alone. They had 2 PLs killed in 3 days. Coming up to the Chowkay, killed, IED, boom. Did it again, killed they killed the replacement guy in the same road. So that pushed back our rip out of the Chowkay, because now they would only let people come in by air. And so we kind of did the same thing, but we left all key leaders and let all the soldiers go. So we were the leaders on the ground for 2 weeks with their guys, which was, to me, it was so weird, because how I did it when they ripped in with me, I want to say it was 25th ID. Either we ripped in to 25th or 10th Mountain and then ripped out with the other one. But I remember telling him, I was like, I did say that. Here's my log. This is what's going on. I mean, I am loaded in psych. I mean, his head was spinning. So I was like, look, they're going to shoot at us. The first few firefights, let me take your boys out there. You come behind me, because I don't want anything to happen. So he agreed. I wish I remember the guy's name. He was awesome. He'd probably knew more than I did. I just had the experience of the Chowkay with me, and a super smart guy. And I told him, he saw my markers and how he's doing stuff. And in his mind, he's like, I can't do that. I got to do this and that. I'm like, you say that now, brother, until you're taking rounds from all sides and you don't know where it's coming from. You don't have time to be there on an LHEC and get rounds off to if you do that, you're going to get people killed, because they're going to get shots off on you. Yep. You need to drop smoke and procs on these motherfuckers, or you're going to get people killed. Sure shit. I don't know what firefight it was. It was one of the last ones, few. He had 2 guys wounded in the pit with us. After I told those guys, stay the fuck away from that area, you're going to get hit. Sure shit, got hit. And then in my other one, after I told his other guys, like, don't let guys be on this part of the pit, they're going to get whacked. What does he do? They do exactly what I tell them not to do. And 3 wounded from 1 platoon in 3 days. That's just the guys I was ripping with.
Yeah.
So leaving that place, I was like, looking back, like, I'll never see Afghanistan again. That was a joke. And then, like, whatever happened to Chowkay, you know, like, I know they're only there a few months and they pulled out and blew it up and this, that, and the other. And then obviously what happened with Afghanistan, ironically enough, I was ripping into OIR as the sergeant major when my buddy, who's one of the brigade ops sergeant majors, was one of the last ones to leave Bagram with General Donahue.
Yep.
Joey Blackshear, man, another solid fucking leader in the Army. He just recently retired as well. And, you know, so I have a really close friend of mine who firsthand experienced the pullout from Afghanistan. And then I just happened to be a couple countries over running, you know, Syria, Iraq, Kurdistan, and fucking, you know, our little bubble in Kuwait. Yeah, I mean, I have my obviously thoughts like every other OEF vet out there of how that went down and what happened. But that doesn't even hurt as much as when I found out the Chowkay was blown in place and, you know, how much blood was spilt there. And the videos, I'm not, like I said, I don't do any of this stuff. You know how the younger generation was. That we got to a point where we're videotaping our firefights, you know, just trying to see anything. And there's a lot of shit we found in those cams about where shots were hitting that we had no idea bullets were hitting, you know. So we learned a lot, but at the same time, it was kind of, it was one of those times you don't want to put firefights on. And I told my guys not to do it. They did it anyway. But, you know, you put Chowkay Valley into YouTube, you could see some of the firefights my guys put on there just to kind of get a feel for what it was. You obviously know when in combat veterans know, doesn't matter if it's an IED, you're getting shot at on a cop, you're out on a patrol, you get ambushed, whatever the case might be, you know, the chaos that ensues and how all of your senses at once are going to do one of two things. They're going to dull down and focus you, or they're going to go out and you're just going to be a madman. You're not going to be able to focus on one thing. That's kind of how I put this deployment. There was no controlled chaos. It was just chaos.
Mm.
It was just 360 fight. And you think that was bad. The valley next to it that we were in, the mountains there wasn't even 500 meters between the valley. They literally put this cop directly down where you could shoot right down on it. So much that they had to live. They would crawl out to the mortar, shoot mortars, and crawl back into their sleeping space. It was the most ridiculous thing I ever saw. So the minute they said we could pull out of here, I was like, we don't need to be in this valley. This small, you know, me, Staff Sergeant, I wasn't saying, but our command was saying that. And I had, at one time, I had my guys split between that valley, the Chowkay, and Fortress. So when we were able to pull out of that shithole and pull back, it made everybody's life a little bit easier. But then where did all those enemies go?
Right.
Ooh, let's go over to this place now.
That highlights the problem, the tactical problem that you guys were because you described it earlier as a cat and mouse game. And
that deployment definitely was.
Yeah. And I mean, and it describes the tactical problem. Because I think a lot of times people who weren't there, like myself, who all we know is what we hear our friends talk about or God forbid what we read about in the media, right? And everyone talks about like, well, take a look at this is madness. Why would you establish a base at this location, right? And yeah, I think it's a valid question, but I think there was a tactical reason for it, right? Because you were trying to accomplish something in terms of interdicting those lines that were going into the adjacent valley and trying to kill those guys there. I've always felt that, like it was somewhat disrespectful to the guys that served in those locations just to describe it to say like, why the fuck were they there? Well, they were there for a real reason. The tactical employment could certainly be questioned, of course, but like it wasn't like you can go to the top of one of those hills and set up those bases. I mean, it's just crazy. It was almost, there was just nothing but bad choices. I think as I hear you talking about, there's nothing but bad choices in front of you guys, and you did the best you could.
When looking back on that one, they're bad choices, and then there's just complete. Where did you come from? And that was one of the things like. That wasn't even a bad decision. That shouldn't have never even been a decision in anybody's mind. Yeah. I wish I knew the name of the valley, and hopefully someone else just can remember it. But I mean, it was literally they carved into the mountain and put a little fucking outpost there with a mortar, and they were just getting shit on. I mean, when I talk shit on, like it's one thing to take fire from 200-300 meters away, 2,000 meters away with like say a 107, and it's all just kind of come down on you. But when it's coming down on you,
yeah.
Because I was out there for one. I stayed out there. The Chowkay was the hotter area, so I told Dave, I was like, I'm going to be there, but I wanted to feel his pain. In the very beginning, I wanted to see what it was like, and I remember being a huge advocate, telling first sergeant commander was like, this is dumb. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. Why are we here? And they were saying the same thing too. It wasn't like our chain of command was oblivious to it. But during the RIP process, we didn't want to make the unit feel like shitbags,
Right.
like, hey, we're dropping this, we're doing that, rah, 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 but after they left, our senses came, we pulled out and we did it. But you got to think for 2 weeks during a RIP, that shit, we took more fire during the RIPs, I think, we took a shit ton of fire, so I can't really say that. But let's just say during the RIPs, those were key moments for them to fuck us up. So they took full advantage of those, right?
They knew that stuff was going on, 100%.
Right? And amongst, ranch house and you would not, I mean, you could go back and forth. There's bad decisions and that, it was a decision made. You can't have that saying where it's like in the army where it's like, not making a decision is the wrong decision, right? Yeah, like you don't. So they had to come up with something because that's what the higher up told them to do. And they tell them you're going to be there. And there was no other spot. They did what they had to do. But whoever told them to put it there and that was fine, that's just complete idiot. That's putting guys' life in danger on purpose.
Yeah.
For no reason whatsoever.
And I think it speaks to you and your teammates. I think a lot of people maybe in the civilian world probably don't understand, like they understand this, but like, this is a great example of like, listen, it's not like you guys had a choice. This is where you were sent. This is what you were asked to do. And you guys did the very best you could under, I don't want to say impossible, but near impossible circumstances. You talk about survivor's guilt, something I can certainly relate to myself. And, rest in peace, Ben Hall. I will say this, man, if you had been out there with him and you had been killed right alongside of him, I think there's probably a really good possibility that you would have had a lot more casualties that day. Because you were needed in that fire pit. I'm sorry, you were needed in that mortar pit to be able to do what you did. It's not about the silver star. It's about like the lives that you save. That's just an outsider's perspective, man.
No. It's just that, like you said, the imposters and like what I did had nothing to do with heroics whatsoever. And I'll tell everybody that to the end of the moon. But man, in this is a saying I've told people, like, that old saying, like I served with a company of heroes, whatever the saying.
Yep.
When you serve in a battalion like 503rd in OEF 8, you're in a battalion of fucking heroes.
That's right.
I mean, we have 3 living Medal of Honor recipients.
Yep.
I was fortunate enough to be able to go to Junta's in ceremony, his when he got put into the Hall of Valor there in DC. That was a great experience. We have a handful of Distinguished Service Crosses. We have, I think we're up to like 30 Silver Stars now from that deployment. This is one battalion. Hundreds of BSMVs that probably should have been higher up awards. ARCOM Vs that could have been higher up award. I mean, I served with a battalion. Studs. I mean, and I go back deployments, like everybody was in stuff. Like anybody who, especially after September 11th, knew they're going to go to war, especially as an infantry cat, deserves some sort of recognition. Why? Because until you're sitting in that hole or you're sitting in that mountain and you're feeling that adrenaline rush from your life could end in any second, and you look at them in the eyes and they're there and they're doing what they're fucking trained to do, there's no deeper love in my heart when it comes to having soldiers like that, because it makes me feel this small to know all those guys I served with and what they did. So whereas Silver Star is great in the like is a pretty big deal, to me it's not when I'm up against giants who deserve to fucking be there. So every time someone wanted me to tell my story, it's like, you don't want to hear my fucking shit. You want to hear Eric Phillips. You want to hear Jesse Quex. You want to hear all these guys that did amazing things that were not. Ranch House, Conrad Begay. I mean, there's so many of them who are true heroes.
Yeah.
I just deployed a lot. That's the best way I could put it, man. I was either in the wrong place at the right time or the right place at the wrong time. Which one you look at?
Your humility is one of the coolest things about you, man. The final part of this, and I think an equally important part of this. Let's step away from the combat zone for a bit and let's talk about your decision to retire. There's a story there, and I want to hear kind of like what your thoughts were about that decision when you finally said, like, this is who I am, this is what I love doing. What would lead you to make that decision?
Well, the Sergeant Major rings aren't what you think they are. Not all fun and dandy.
You're not the first guy I've heard say that.
Yeah, yeah. You have these as a young soldier growing up, you think, man, sergeant majors have superpowers and they get paid a ton of money and they have yeah, no, it's none of that. It's a noble cause. I will say that. It is truly a noble cause to be not just a leader in the Army, an NCO in the Army, or just in the Army, but to be a sergeant's major in the Army. And I'm just going to be blunt. I don't care how many people watch this. Went to Sergeant Major Academy, all intentions to be in Division CSM or whatever in the world, And I came out of the academy and, my first job I got on ground was, hey, we need you to go back to El Paso and be the brigade ops sergeant major for the Southwest Border Mission. I'm like, I just graduated the academy, which one doesn't teach you how to be a sergeant's major, by the way. It does not. It teaches me how to write a lot of papers, get my degree, and have a good time reading a lot of papers. It doesn't teach you how to be a sergeant major. Being a sergeant major is everything you learned up to that point, right? How to be a mentor, a trainer, do all those good things. So I go back down to the border, literally, thinking, I come out of the academy. My wife had a job in, because I taught at NSU. I was a senior military science instructor at Northwestern State University of Louisiana, Demons, which was a great experience. I wasn't there long just because I made the academy. I went geo-bachelor to the academy, and my wife stayed back with my child. I didn't want to move her for 12 months, and my wife had a job. And so I did it pro bono, which is good because I got to focus on not just the academy, but also getting my degree. So I wrote a lot of papers, grinded through it, and I get out. I'm away from my wife for a year just to get to the 101st, say, hey, I need you to deploy out for another 4 months back to where you just came from. No problem. I'm here to serve. I told Sergeant Major, Brigade Sergeant Major, you got me. Can you just give me a week to get my shit straight? Because he wanted me to leave, like, when's as soon as she can leave? And I was like, just give me a week. I just hit ground. Can I at least get my family settled? I'll be back. He's all right, good. So that was my first job in the Army as a sergeant's major. And then I get back off of that and I jump around some ops sergeant majors, and then an opportunity came up to be the OIR sergeant major. And I jumped at it because it was a deployment and I'm sick in the head. And for some reason I can't. To me, it didn't feel like I had a purpose if I was sitting anywhere besides in a zone somewhere. So I was getting depressed. I was like, this isn't me. Like, this is not like, I don't have soldiers. I'm an ops sergeant major. Like it was really wearing on me. So I took that deployment, which revitalized me. I got to, I learned a whole hell of a lot at that level. I had a lot of information, a lot of stuff to bring back. I came back off that, and Eagle 7 in the 101st is like, hey, you just came from being a Ohio sergeant major. How about be my division ops sergeant major? And I'm like, I guess I don't have a choice, do I? So here I am. So now you got all these ops sergeant major jobs coming up, and I finally made CSL, but I was at the PCS and leave my family or come with me. My wife's a GS-11. She works on post. She's trying to build towards her own retirement. I've been pulling her all around the world. My daughter's at this time, she's going into her freshman year of high school. That's big, right? You don't want to pull kids out of high school. So she plays varsity sports. She's in the band. She plays 5 instruments. Like, I don't want to be a guy puller. And then all of a sudden, where did all that go? She's straight A's. Like, so I talked to Command Sergeant Major Doug Walker. He's Eagle 7 right now. He retires next year. He's another really good leader, really good man. Spent a lot of time in the regiment. I could rely on talking to him and like getting good, honest feedback. And I told him, I was like, if I turn down CSL, will you keep me here for the next year to be your ops sergeant major? Because at this time, they're like, if you turn down CSL, you're out. Fuck what you did in your career. Fuck the deployments. Fine. Sergeant majors. Oh, you don't want the job? Bye-bye. So I was scared. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna reach my high 3 for sergeant major if I don't get the. So I talked to him. He's like, you should take it. Obviously, everybody take it. I told him my side of the story. I want to be a father after 85 months of combat. I want to be a husband after 85 months of combat. I want to be a family man. I don't want to look back and say, oh, I was a division CSM. Yay. And look back and say, oh, my kid's off married with a kid now. I don't even know who the hell she is, So I wasn't going to do that. And it was an easy decision. It was an easy decision. It was just hard to pull the trigger, right? Yeah. In my mind, when I pulled the trigger and I called Branch and I told him, and he said, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I made sergeant major. As much as I would love to be a command sergeant major, I've given the soldiers 24 years of my life. I need to give my daughter what she has left. So I did it. I put it in. They approved it. They allowed me to stay in to 24 years to reach my my high 3. I don't know how long I was frocked for as a sergeant major.
How long?
18 fucking months.
Wow.
18 months of making E8 pay. I'd done 3 sergeant major jobs before I was even get paid as a sergeant major. So that, and it's not like sergeant majors get paid a lot anyway,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's not about the money. I get it's about the responsibility, but the way they just, you don't want the job, go. I got such a sour taste in my mouth, the sergeant major ranks, because it's a cutthroat world that unless you want to stay in and go up, we don't want you no more. We don't care if you won a goddamn Medal of Honor and carried 2 dudes off, and it doesn't matter. If you don't take the job we give you, you're out. And I know why. I'm not an idiot. I know sergeant majors that burn the Army over and over again because they're entitled assholes sometimes, right?
Mhm.
Who are like, oh, I did this, I deserve to go there, or I don't want to go there, so I'm going to stay here. I get all that. But man, I was saying, hey, not only will I'm retiring and giving this job to somebody else, I will stay for a year as a division ops sergeant major and grind it out and not just go sit on my thumbs somewhere, right? So it should be a case by case, not like, oh, and they're doing this to brigade CSMs who don't want divisions. They're doing them to, they need to overhaul the sergeant major world. And I'm not saying Sergeant Major Army Grinston or Sergeant Major Chandler or Sergeant Major of the Army Werner, whatever is it?
Mhm.
They're all, you look at them, they're all good. I know politics plays into it, and I know it. They do give the good fight, and it gets shut down at whatever level because of money. And I get all that. But try to be a Sergeant Major branch that takes care of your own. Cut through the bullshit of the Sergeant Majors who are really trying to get over on the system and let them go on their way. But there's some of us out there who have given our fucking life and blood. And now it's like, oh, you don't want the job? Get out. No, man, that's not treating people right.
Mhm.
It's not like I did 20 years and spent time at JRTC 20 times. All I was asking for this, but they did. I cannot complain. I was able to finish out my career on my terms, but I hear it every day. Buddies of mine, people all over the place, Sergeant Major branch is still happening. So if I was Sergeant Major of the Army for 2 years, if I was the SMA, my number one thing would be rehauling the Sergeant Major rank, Sergeant Major world of just how cutthroat it just seems to be for guys who have given their life to this. Like,
Yeah.
I get it. There's people out there going to play the system, but not everybody's playing the system.
Yeah. I mean,
So when I chose to retire, I just looked at everything. I was like, all right, if I go be a CSM, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to train up, possibly deploy, come home. Okay. And then I'll probably go to another unit where I'll do the same thing. I saw the road that I've traveled over and over. I didn't need to travel it for any more notoriety, to put a wreath around my star or any of that. It's about me and my own recovery. And not just that, my mental state was dropping. My marriage was dropping. Like, it was like, this was the time I had to go if I wanted to just make sure the rest of my life was at least cordial with my family, I'm still rebuilding. I'm building a relationship with my daughter I've never built, which is excellent through her sports and everything. And me and my wife are finally getting to know each other. 20 years, half that time I'm on a deployment, she's taking care of everything. And, the newlywed is over now. You're actually living together for a long time. You kind of find new things about each other. So I'm glad I'm doing that now and not another 6, 7, 8 years down the road when my daughter's gone, my wife's already divorced me, and I'm completely gone in the head, So
yeah.
that's kind of where I came up with the retirement. Why I've decided to.
You and I both love the Army. We love the people we served with. But I think we come to a realization, and it's not like a source of resentment for me, but you come to a realization where, listen, man, the Army is going to always get what the Army wants. The Army is always going to construct policies to benefit the Army, and that's fine. But at some point, when guys like you and me, we have some liberty and we can make decisions that are what's good for CT, what's good for John Mark, you get to make that. And I think for a lot of guys that, like a lot of our colleagues, a lot of our teammates, like that's a very difficult decision to make. And I love how you said it. It was a difficult decision to make, but it was an easy decision to make. And the way you just described it, man, it sounds like you hit a home run. You made the right call. I mean, it really sounds like you just made the right call and you didn't botch it. And you made the decision that was best for you. I salute you for that because, as you said, you poured your life into the Army, and it's not an easy thing to walk away from. I don't think people who didn't serve for that long of a time and been what you went through can really understand that. So I salute you for it, man.
I appreciate the kind words. I just, every time people say, what you got to realize is, there's the Army has a mission.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing about the Army I wish I could change is if they focus on the people more, and not a slogan you put on the commercial. I'm talking about inner ranks, caring about your people,
Mhm.
taking care of them. The Army will be just fine. But what happens is everybody looks at them as cookie cutter soldiers that should be doing this, that, and the other. And if you do this, there's black and white, there's no gray. And I see all. But in my experience, I can tell you it's not all that, right? I had soldiers who should have been kicked out of the Army that turned out to be, fuck, one of them's in Ranger Regiment right now. Like, I have soldiers who almost gave up, who are doing great things in the Army, because if I was any other leader and kicked them out, like Crabtree could have kicked me out, who knows where I'd be, right? You give them a second chance if it's not irreversible. And I'm not talking about the guy who raped somebody, killed somebody,
Sure.
did something crazy. A bar fight. I mean, even a DUI now
Yeah.
and then, and even then, I'm a little, but little things. But there's a time in the Army where if you got a DUI or you got in a fight, like back in the day, trying to protect your boys, you're out. There was no, you're going out. We don't need you. And like, oh
Yeah.
man,
100%.
like if we're in a world where you're is zero policy, zero, then you're screwed. And how are you going to have infantry guys, combat armed guys, and tell us, oh, don't go out in the bar. You teach us to kill people, dude. You send us to combat, and then you want me to come back and be some good dude that's just going to sit back and fucking blow rainbows out my ass? I mean, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Like, college students do far worse shit than some of these soldiers out here do, and they're not chastised and their whole life gone because they made one mistake when they're supposed to make their mistakes, right? 18 to 23, 24, you're going to make dumb mistakes. Learn from them and move on. I was that guy. Some people don't learn. Yes, then you got to get them out. You're not good for the system.
Yeah.
But today's Army, or the Army I left a year ago, it was like you have to be on your P's and Q's, and that does not make you a great soldier. You know what it reminds me of? Remember back in the day where you go on a deployment and everybody had to dress the same. Everything had to be where it was at. It doesn't matter how you fight or what you need to do or what's comfortable for you or whatever the case might be. You're going to look like this. How dumb are you? Like, there's a reason why all these guys, soft guys, are because they have shooter preference. They know what's comfortable with them. We were going into like looking like idiots. As time went on, we were able to get our own stuff to make it more comfortable.
Mhm.
No flashy stuff, obviously, but something to make it comfortable to do it. And that's how I put some of these Army leaders, right? They don't think outside the box. They think this is what soldiers should do. This is how it should be. Da, 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 da. Everybody's dressed the same. Blah, blah, da, 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 da. All right. There's a reason why our guys who are on the other side of the war, those guys are really good at what they do because they let them make decisions on their own and they're fucking lethal.
Yep.
But you put an infantry company together and say, you're going to do this, everybody's going to do this, and you train and do this and sticks, right? It's not like that as bad as it used to be. Now you kind of go out and get what you do, get your squad right, you get the right fits or whatever the case might be. But it's just some of these leaders in the Army, they're born for Army, but they're not born to lead, if that makes sense.
That's very well said, man. That makes total sense.
And I ran into a bunch of those officers enlisted.
Mhm.
Great Army dudes. You fucking put a weapon together, shoot shit out of the sky, but you suck as a leader, bro. You have no people skills whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I think that was another big turnoff as I got into the higher ranks, because you get in the higher ranks, it's all politics. It's politics, and no one sees below to the layers of what the soldiers need. And I wasn't down with that anymore. I was just like,
yeah.
I would sign up and go right back to war in a second. I mean, unfortunately, it's weird to say, but it's an adrenaline rush.
Mhm.
It's addictive. Anybody who says it's been in some true fights and says, "Oh, it's the worst thing ever. Don't do shit near me. Don't do this. Don't get the fuck out of here, man. You were in combat." Because real dudes, I know the dudes I've been with, they couldn't wait for the next one. And when someone gets hit or killed, yes, you mourn and it hurts, and then that revenge comes up, and you just want to go out there and nail them again. That I don't think will ever go away.
Wow. Everything that you've been through, Chris, in your life, in your career, it's had to have had a significant impact on your mental health. One of the things I really enjoyed about our pre-call was just how much you leaned into that, how much you talked about that. Can you share with our listeners kind of like your day to day, like how you kind of like manage that and how you are trying to fight through that?
So I'm about to let the cat out of the bag on this one. Only a few people know what I've been doing over the past year that I've been retired, and what my plan is anyway. So I started smoking weed daily. I live off the 3 W's: water, weed, and weightlifting. I don't drink alcohol. When I do, it's like New Year's Eve champagne, like I did this last time.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped dipping. Of course, I do Zen, but I'm slowly coming off that. I dipped since I was 17 years old. They had me on all these pills and this, that, and the other. And I was like, let me see what this hoopla is about. Marijuana, weed. It was legal over in Missouri. My wife's cousin lives over there. And I was like, I tried it. And I'll tell you what, I think that was the first time in probably 15 years I hadn't thought about killing myself every day that I woke up. I didn't have a hangover like if I drank. I felt clear-headed. I felt relaxed. I was like, let me try this out for a while. I mean, I can go days where I don't smoke. I still feel great.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing a lot of research on terpenes and this, that, and the other. And it's just like, yes, is it healthy? There's nothing in life that is healthy, right? But I will tell you this. I've been the alcoholic. I've been the pill pusher, the pill popper because of, meds they've had me on over the years. You get addicted to those and they are miserable and they are hard to come off of. I was on weed for a week and stopped doing things I did my whole life.
Wow.
I felt that. I woke up, I was like, you know what, let's go to the gym this morning. Does it make me super, no. Like I smoked before I came and talked to you because it calms my nerve. Like I don't need to smoke, but I will say this, when I do smoke, I don't have thoughts of suicide. I don't have thoughts of road rage. I don't have all these things that just weigh on you day after day after day. And you just keep fighting them back because that's what you do. That's what I did my whole career. Self-preservation. I want to, you think I told a doctor once I tried to kill myself or attempt? Hell no. You tell the doctors what you want to hear so you can continue to go do what you got to do to survive and to raise your family and to give them what they need. And I did that. And then my first year, when I finally stopped running in the Army and I stopped, it was not good. And I was like, holy shit, I don't have a purpose. I don't have, and I turned to weed. And then, now I'm doing stories. I hear stories about one of my wife works with an old retired fifth group guy and his wife and how he's done ayahuasca treatments and iodine treatments. And I've been doing a lot of research. I watched documentaries and I had a plan to do this last year. A lot of things happen in life, so I'm going, but my goal is I will keep smoking weed, legal, famous watching it's legal, I'm not doing illegal. And my end goal is to go get a treatment. And I want to document this for myself of not just that, my family, my friends have been around my whole life on the change it took from being a happy-go-lucky, played football, basketball, and baseball in high school, just happy-go-lucky, enjoying life, wearing the Letterman's jacket, living the high school dream, to joining the Army September 11th, which changed my life forever. And then everything that led up to the point that where I'm at now. And then trying to get back to the old me prior to combat. Can I do that through, I know weed's a Band-Aid. I get that. Whereas if I can get to the ayahuasca treatment, I want to say, hey, I've been to the deepest dark of hell in my mind. And this is where I am today. I want to document true, and to me, PTSD that I have. Everybody's is different. And maybe at the end of all this, write a book about not just the origin and what I went through in my career, but also the mental health issues I went through, I hid. And then what I did after to get back to the start point, which is hopefully how I was before I joined the Army.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the goal. I know it's a long, slow process. And there's going to be a lot of people that watch this that had no idea I've been smoking since I've been retired. But, and and this is some of the stigma that goes with smoking. I never did drugs growing up. It wasn't in my DNA. I was so focused on academics and sports. My brothers did, and I won't rat them out on the internet, but millions of people couldn't be wrong. So when I retired, I was like, let's try it. I'm being a 100% hypocrite right now because throughout my life, I was a dare child, right? Ronald Reagan dared, drugs are bad, you're the devil. Yeah. So it was just like, fuck it. So yes, I do smoke weed. I don't drink alcohol. I don't dip anymore. I feel like $1 million. Do I have my days? Yes, I do. I still have to take my meds that the Army gives me. That's another one I'm scared to come off of because when I did try to come off that med before marijuana, I turned into something I never thought I was. And I had to get back on it very quickly. My wife will tell you. So I know it's real because that med stuck in me now. I can't. So I'm trying to wean off of it. So I have my doctor taking me 25 milligrams every time I have to do a refill. So I can get down to nothing because I want to go into this treatment clear-headed. I want to go in not masked with a drug I'm taking.
Yep.
I want to get off this anti whatever they have me on and go into it clean. So, and that's a process. I'm not ready to come off the meds yet. So it's a work in progress. I keep telling people, oh, next year, next month, and I'm not ready to pull the trigger on it yet because it's a road unknown to me.
Wow, that is inspirational, man. Like I have quite a few friends of mine who smoke marijuana to cope. I don't even want to say cope. It's not the right word, but they do it to help them with the symptoms of post-traumatic stress. And I don't know a single one of them who says that it's not helpful. Like it's a slam dunk, right? And I've also recently started taking a look at, hey, maybe there's something to psychedelics that we should consider here as well, right? Like these really non-traditional yet things that are taboo for whatever reason. I think you and I both know the reasons. There's pop culture, there's war on drugs, and all this other kind of stuff. Are you finding like your healthcare team helping you see the pathways to those sorts of unconventional kind of treatments, or are you seeing like obstructions and roadblocks to that?
I'm seeing non-starters is what I'm seeing. So every time I run two, I go between the VA and TRICARE with my, because I'm here at Fort Campbell still, or in Clarksville. I have a primary on Bach right there on Fort Campbell, and I have my other veterans right down the road here in Clarksville. And I've told both, and it's more like, oh, okay, I see. Okay, well, I want to hope that goes well. I mean, I don't talk to a mental health professional. There's another story, a rat hole that I go down for that, but it's more of a, okay, good for you type of feel. It's not like, oh, they don't have, there's no probing questions or there's no active feedback or nothing like that. It's just, okay, cool. Good for you. There's nothing on it. Obviously I've done research. There's, Jay sent me a link for one and I looked into it and looking into it. And there's a few others. Some cost money, some don't. It's not about, I want to do my research on all of them before I choose one to put my life and my mental health in their hands. I'm just not going to willy nilly like I thought I was going to do. I had a lot of great aspirations that when I first retired, I was like, I want to do this and that. Next year, I'm going to go here and do. And then I realized quickly I need to slow down a little bit. But
relate to that.
I guess if I saw a mental health professional, so I saw a psychiatrist my last year in the Army. I was hoping maybe he could help. Maybe this is the right way to go. And don't get me wrong, he's a good old man, and but doesn't understand a damn thing. He wanted me to do breathing exercises and this, that, and the other, and he wasn't up to date with ayahuasca or ibogaine. And it's just like, all right, thanks for your help, big dog.
Yeah,
I'll see you later.
Yeah.
So a lot of my coping is talking to friends from the past or not thinking about it at all is really the big one. I play video games. So when I first saw a psychiatrist back in 2008, I left her office and I didn't want to ever go back again as fresh off the deployment. And I bought an Xbox. Said, I'll try this gaming thing. Some people are doing it to cope and kind of grew on me. Friday nights was my gaming night with my friends to kind of focus my thoughts on one thing. And that worked for a while. And I kind of, you grow up, I still play games down there, but nothing like I used to. And, so what's the next thing? What's the thing that heals me, doesn't Band-Aid me is what I was going for. And that's kind of where I'm at now is I don't want to smoke weed the rest of my life. I'm not trying to be Willie Nelson dog as much as, hey, they can't be that bad if they're still alive kicking, right?
I mean, CT, I think the thing that like, what I take away from this conversation, because believe me, I benefit from these more than anyone else, is it's easy to get wrapped around the axle around like weed and psychedelics and those sorts of things because it's interesting, it's new, and it's provocative. But I think the point is that you have a plan, right? Like what you just described to me was like you have this holistic kind of plan. You're working out, you're not drinking, you drop the dip. Yeah, you're like me. You like the nicotine. I
can't quit it all.
I can't quit it all. But then you have a plan and you have a strategic reason that you're using marijuana, and then you have an idea about the kind of life that you want to have in terms of this clean body, this clean approach, right? And I think and then on top of that, you have connection with your mates. And to me, like that is the recipe for success. I've heard it over and over and over again. So when I hear you talk about all these different ideas that you have, I think it's extremely healthy. And I think you have a plan, you have a strategy in place. And that's where a lot of guys, I think a lot of our teammates, where we fall is when we get stuck in a rut and we don't have a plan. And you've got one, my brother. And I think it's very instructive for the folks at home who might be struggling with these sorts of things. Very instructive.
I'm fully transparent, and my wife will vouch. I'm not. I used to hide it, and over this past year, I've been very open.
Mm-hmm.
I attempted suicide twice in my life with a revolver, Russian roulette style. Won both times because I'm here, I guess. The thoughts were always there, but I mean, I've been at the bottom of the bottom, and it was crazy because I never believed in mental. It was a thing. Obviously, we come from the generation just be tough or whatever, but I denied it, denied it, denied it. But then I was feeling shit I never felt in my life ever. Why am I upset? I live a good life. I have everything I want in life. I don't, like even now, all I gotta do is wake up, go to the gym, come home, and smoke up now and then. But yet I still feel like my life is like it's the craziest thing because I used to never have these thoughts. But over the last 15, 20 years, after more specifically after OEF 8, I think between losing Larry and Mike and just that deployment in general, that's when I came back and started doing the dumb shit, drinking. And plus another thing, and the army was bad at it, and it was just the own time. When I went back to the valley and left that doctor, something I left out, is they sent a convoy up with my meds that the doctor wanted me to leave with. All these meds that make you lethargic, and I got addicted to them in the valley. I'm out there shooting up, fucking taking these stupid meds he gave me. At one point, I almost got addicted to it. I had to like throw them out and burn them. And like it weighed on it, and it was just like pills. So I've been at the bottom with the pills, the alcohol, the suicide. It was just like the only people that knew were my wife. Why? Because self-preservation. You want to continue to be able to provide for your family, but you cannot do that by being honest in the army.
Yeah.
Not then, maybe now.
Yeah.
So I crushed it down. And then I just let it sit there and fester. And it in my today, I mean, it doesn't matter. It's still there. It's just, I never knew what it was because it made no sense to me. Why am I upset? Why am I feeling these? What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
You know, and I finally, I finally says, fuck it. I have PTSD, whatever, I'm going to live with this and we'll go on. But, idle hands do bad shit,
Yeah.
And I need not do that. So I needed to find ways to help myself until I can get to that point, and it's hard when you're retired and all you've done is go, go, go your whole career. And now you're stopped. And it's just like, fuck, now I don't have a purpose. I don't have a life. But I need to be focused on what I said I was focusing on, and that's family. But in the back of your mind is always, I was saying we were soldiers once and young. I get that now. I never got that thing once. I get it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. Oh, I used to be cool,
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's hard. It's just like any of these athletes that leave NFL and big time jobs. It's like you go from being the Tom Brady of the world to now you're, who are you now? What's your purpose of life? You're not throwing touchdowns anymore. And so it's the same with any job, any high octane job where you've led men into combat, onto the field, anywhere, and you have that camaraderie, and then it's gone a day later. You got to find a way to package that up without destroying your life. And I think that's where weed is the Band-Aid to kind of get me there without sloping back down into my dark world, so I can get my brain healthy at the end of it. And I have high expectations and high hopes, but that's all I can have, because if I don't, then I'm going to go down the wrong way. And I don't want to be a statistic, nor do I want to be, I still, to this day, I still want to be a positive role model for soldiers who got out before me and after me. So that's kind of where I'm at in life.
I mean, what you just said, I think is one of the most honorable things I've ever heard, man. I've only known you for about 3 hours now, really. And I'm departing our call today feeling very, very good about where you are and kind of where you're going, man. I really do. And I think your book idea is fantastic. And I actually know some guys that were on this podcast previously, 2 authors that, whenever you're ready, I'm happy to connect. They have a lot of experience and resources that can really help you with that, because I think you're onto a really interesting idea. In an era where there are so many of our teammates, and I don't criticize other guys for the living they make. They want to write books about their experiences, and that's great. I support all of it. But what your project is really something that's very different and unique and can really help people, I feel. And so I'm ready. I'm here for you, man. If you ever want to get started on that, I can introduce you to some people associated with this project that can really, I think, give you some really good insight and how you can start getting to work on that whenever you're ready.
No, I appreciate that. And I still deal with the reason I haven't pulled the trigger on, nor will I pull the trigger anytime. So one is, who's going to want to read about my life? What kind of arrogant F So I'm gonna write a book about my life. Everybody's gonna read it. It's gonna be great, you know. So it's just like this interview, you know. This is not me. I am going. I don't like talking about myself. I don't like praise. I think it makes me cringe. But so the way I'm trying to justify it in my mind to actually pull the trigger on this damn thing. One, I want to get through the process first. Dump all my thoughts somewhere. And the only way I'm justifying this is maybe it'll help some people in the world. Something throughout this book might help somebody somewhere, sometime, somewhere. Because it's definitely not about money. I mean, on my second retirement, she has a job. Just joking. So that's one thing I'm fortunate about, right? My wife, you know, got out of the army. She was NP, got her degree, had a child, continued to drive on, has a job, doing everything great in life. And, you know, so I'm very fortunate enough to not have to get out of the army and just go shoot into another job and hate my life and go down, you know. So, you know, I give my wife a lot of credit for dealing with this for 20 years. April 29th, 19 years right now. Army wives do not get enough credit.
Oh, no,
they don't get enough credit at all.
Nope.
Especially the ones that stick around for 20 some years and 8 deployments, right? Yeah, you know, and she's been helping. Like, she thinks I should do it. People say I don't think I should do it yet. I don't until I can justify it in my own mind and my own heart and say, okay, yes, I can do this. It's going to be hard to pull the trigger because my biggest weakness is I'm a people pleaser. I hate it more than anything in this world. Not because it's because of the drain it takes on me and my family when I do things that I don't necessarily need to do. So justifying a book about myself seems like the most asinine, ridiculous thing I could do in my life. So I have to justify it in my own mind before I actually pull the trigger on it and actually start asking for help. And I don't know when that time's going to come.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're here for you, brother, whenever you come to that point. For what it's worth, I think the topic you're writing about could actually save lives. It can help a lot of people. And I think it can also help you too, man, because you'll spend the rest of your life processing everything that's gone on. And from what I've heard from other guys, it's like writing a book was really helped me reassemble the puzzle, right? My brother, I've taken up way too much of your time tonight. Yeah. I just want to take opportunities to give you my sincere thanks. I know this wasn't easy for you. You don't like to self-promote. And we covered a lot of ground that was really difficult. You were very candid. We're going to turn this thing into something that I think a lot of people can really benefit from. And I'm grateful to you for that, CT. And I think you're on a great path, my man. And I
appreciate it.
You know where I am if you ever need to talk, and I know where you are if we need to talk. And let's just agree to watch each other's backs and as we move forward.
Yeah, well, like I tell everybody, hey, if there's anything you ever need, I'm just a text or a phone call away, and I truly mean it. I mean, at this point in my life, if I can help anybody with anything, that'd be my sense of purpose for the day, because my only sense of purpose right now is not making sure I pull a hammy in the gym in the morning.
I can definitely relate to that. Thank you so much, CT, and thank you. And God bless, and we'll talk to you later, brother.